Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all doing well this fine Sunday. There is a new interview with Fred Hill. Ooh. I've already listened to it, so I know it's interesting. You know, I do like Fred Hill's bombshells, and I say that in inverted commas. I say that in the air quotes that I'm doing, although you can't see me on camera. Listen. I don't believe a word Fred Hill says. Then again, some of what Fred Hill says might turn out to be true. So I'm open-minded. But I'm going to play that interview. It was on Ziggy's channel, and it was with Ernie Shell. It was a phone interview. So I think Ernie phoned Fred, and it's about an hour long. So we're going to play the whole thing, and I'm going to comment on it. Some of it we've heard before. A few things Fred has added to, as he likes to do. So we need to discuss those things, don't we? We need to discuss those things. But before we get to the interview, I'm going to say a few thank yous, because we've had some member gifting going on before the live stream even started. So that's good stuff, isn't it? That's good stuff. So McBro, thank you for joining. Thank you. And Kimberly gifted 5 memberships. Let me see if I can scroll back and see who got them. I can. So we got Bossy Boston, Crazy Stones, Pixie Neutron, G-Dubs, and Corn Nugget. So thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you. And then McBrome gifted 1 membership, and Gina got that. So welcome you all. If you've never been a member before, go and check out the members area. I've got a ton of stuff in there now. And if you have been a member before, welcome back. All right. How do you turn on your free membership? You can't turn on free memberships. Memberships aren't free. What you can turn on is the ability to win a membership. So when someone gifts one, they've basically paid for your membership, and you do that by allowing gift membership. So I'm logged in on YouTube. I'm logged in on Michelle Walks. I'm not logged in under Michelle After Dark. And when Kimberly gifted and when McBro gifted, immediately after, there was a message in the chat saying you could be a lucky recipient of a Michelle After Dark membership with access to exclusive perks. And then there's a link that you click on, and it says allow gift memberships. Now, I haven't done it on Michelle Walks because Michelle Walks doesn't want to win a membership on Michelle After Dark, because basically Michelle Walks is me. So, so I haven't turned it on. But if you've already turned it on, you won't get that message. And it means that you're in the running already to get a free membership. But it's basically the luck of the draw. I don't decide who gets the free memberships, and the person who's gifted the membership doesn't get to decide either. YouTube decides. It's just the luck of the draw. It's based on, I think, engagement with the channel. I don't really know how it works. I don't know what YouTube does to, choose who wins and who doesn't. But if you've not seen that message in the chat, it means you've already allowed gift memberships on this channel. You have to, I think you have to do it for every channel that you watch. You can't just turn it on once and then, I don't know. But yeah, if you want to go and check whether you can do it, if you didn't see it in the chat, if you go to the $sign at the bottom of the chat, so where you can type in your message, on the right hand of that, there's a $sign where you pay for super chats and stuff. If you click on that and go into the membership section, it should have an option for you to allow gift memberships if you missed it in the chat. So I've got free memberships when I've not even been in lives. It's so random. So, me too. Me too. I've found that I've got gift memberships on several channels, and I wasn't in those lives. I basically don't, very rarely watch lives live, because usually they happen overnight. So I usually watch them the following morning. It's very rare I actually watch a live while it's live. And yeah, it's the same. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in the chat to get a gift membership. But I think you've had to have engaged with the channel at some point. I honestly don't know. Honestly don't know. You used to be able to turn on the receive free ones if you click on the $sign. It is. There is an option if you haven't turned it on. But if you don't see it, it means you've already turned it on. And you do only need to turn it on once. Once you've turned it on, then it should work in any future live streams on this channel. I think you just turn it on once, because I've been gifted from channels I don't even go to. I'll get an email telling me. Maybe that's changed. When membership gifting first arrived on YouTube, you had to turn it on for every single channel. Maybe YouTube has changed it. Maybe that was just too clunky, which it was. So maybe YouTube's changed it. So if you haven't seen, if you can't see that message, allow gift memberships, then it means that you've already accepted to allow gift memberships, and you just have to wait to see if you win when somebody gifts memberships. Yeah, I've only just started, Angelica. Just doing a little bit of housekeeping and thanking people for gifting memberships, and then explaining how to allow gift memberships if you want to win one. All right, but we are now going to go to the interview. So this happened overnight my time. Let me just get rid of that message. Okay. All right, so I've been covering summer wells a lot in the last week or so, because, you know, there's new eyes on the case and there's been some interesting stuff coming out. So I've talked a lot about summer wells. Summer wells, of course, was then 5. She would be 10 if she's still alive somewhere. She's 10 years old now. But she was last seen outside of her home. This is summer. This is her Amber Alert from when she first went missing. She was last seen on June 15th, 2021, outside of her home on Ben Hill Road, which is in Hawkins County in northeast Tennessee. And she has been missing ever since. Her case has been a circus, a massive circus, and then it's gone into a lot of quiet times when nothing new's been coming out. But there has been some new stuff, because there's new people talking about the case. It just revitalizes it. So it's got a bit of, you know, new life, which is good, We're talking about the case again. So this was a phone interview between Fred Hill, who you'll know Fred if you've followed this case. However, if you're not familiar, Fred was a neighbour of the Wells. He lived further down Ben Hill Road at the time Summer disappeared. He now lives in Indiana with Ziggy, the YouTuber. They got married a couple of years ago, and Fred was speaking to Ernie Shell. So if we just go to, I'm listening to this on Ziggy's channel, Fred's wife. After 2 years, I still think it's weird to say that Ziggy is Fred's wife. But anyway, love blossomed when Ziggy was interviewing Fred. When Ziggy was traveling from Indiana to Tennessee to go and talk to Fred, love blossomed. So who am I to knock that? Who am I to knock it? Just because I've got a stone cold heart doesn't mean to say that everybody does. All right, so this is with Ernie Shell. Now, I've skipped the first couple of minutes because they're basically saying hello, and they're both saying that they're recording it. So they both were upfront that they were recording it. Ernie was recording it. Fred was recording it. So this is Fred's recording because this is on Ziggy's channel. So this is Fred's recording. All right. So that's where we're going to start. It's just over an hour long. We're going to listen to it all. Some of it is basically what Fred said already. And whether you choose to believe anything Fred says, or some of what Fred says, or none of what Fred says. Okay. Honestly, I struggle to believe anything Fred says at this point, because Fred he's gone all around the houses. He's blamed this person. He's blamed this person. He's blamed this person. And I find it difficult to take him seriously. That said, there may be things that when all's said and done, when answers do finally come in this case, it may turn out that some of what Fred said was true. So I'm completely open-minded. It's the same with, Jody Sue, who was also the neighbour, who lived at 125 Ben Hill Road. I've been talking a lot about Jody Sue in the last few days because Jody Sue's been commenting. Jody Sue's been very triggered. And I know that some of you have commented to me on those videos saying, I don't understand a word Jody Sue says. I just don't understand a word she says. Well, be mindful that Jody Sue does not appear in this live at all. It's all Fred. Now, Fred's quite difficult to understand as well. So I've turned on CCs because it's just a black screen. What you're going to be seeing shortly is a complete black screen, and and why? I don't know why that's happened. Okay, I think you can see the screen. Jazia, member for 28 months. 28 months. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so we're going to start right here, just a couple of minutes in. And let's listen. There are some things that Fred has said in the past that he's now added to. He's added a little bit more information to, as he likes to. This is why it's so hard to believe him, because he adds stuff to things. And what was the original story true, or is this new updated story true? But I'll point all those things out as we get to them. So hello to everybody just coming in. I've not said individual hellos, but you're late. You're okay if you've just come in. If you've just this minute come in, we haven't started yet, and we've just been generally chatting and a little bit of housekeeping and stuff. So we are starting right now. So this is on Ziggy's channel. There's a link to this already in the description box for replay viewers, and I'm going to put this link in the chat as well. So if you want to just go and listen to this without my commentary right now, you are very welcome to. That's your prerogative. But here we go. If you want to listen to my comments on this, well, here we go.
This woman's being used as a scapegoat. Yeah, that's the way I feel.
All right, okay. Let me go 1:15. So it's a little bit sped up. So let me just take it a second back. Right. Second back here. Okay.
And just feel comfortable to say whatever you want to say. Yeah. So I guess I'll just start out, because, it's got, this deals with the Summer Wells case and what happened. Oh, yeah. Now, I know a lot of people wait till the end to go right to the good stuff, and they try to get the gotcha. You know how it is.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to get that out of the way. What do you feel when I say the name Candace Wells? What comes to your mind?
I think she was used as a scapegoat.
An scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
A scapegoat. Scapegoat. I've turned on CCs because I think it will help some people. But when I'm watching these, I find this hilarious. Like when CCs are on, when I'm speaking, like the CCs just do not understand my accent. And it's the same with Fred and Ernie's accent. So the CCs are hilarious. So Fred thinks that Candice has been the scapegoat, which is a really interesting concept.
I mean,
Well, what do you
I
mean
feel
by
like, I mean, well, I'm basing that on the information out of Knoxville. Is what I'm basing that on.
Okay. So you're getting all this from the Knoxville stuff that you know, that you personally know, and you're pretty much like, hey, this woman's being used as a scapegoat.
Yeah, that's the way I felt like.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Like
who is using her?
Huh?
Go ahead.
I feel like
who
she
is
knows
using
everything that went on and went along with it, but I think that she was misled on Summer being brought back. That's my opinion.
Okay, interesting. So, based on what Fred has supposedly learned from his contacting Knoxville, now this came out a few weeks ago. Actually, it was in a conversation that Ziggy recorded between Fred and Chris McDonough. And it was the conversation took place last December of 2025. But Ziggy didn't release it for several months. Now, I did a video or two about it when Ziggy released the call. And it still is on Ziggy's channel, I think. It's quite long. It's several hours long. But Chris McDonough and Fred had a good old conversation. And in that conversation somewhere, Fred told this story about when he was in a halfway house. So if you remember, Fred went to jail. I can't remember when, but it's a couple of years ago now. And it was when he came out that Fred and Ziggy got married. So he was in jail for a few months. I think he was in Hawkins County jail for a few months for methamphetamine distribution. And while he was in jail, Ziggy was having conversations with him. I think their love blossomed during that time. I don't know. But when he got out, he didn't get released like straight out into the community. He went into a halfway house, and I think there was like some, I don't know, rehab component to that. And while he was in this halfway house in Knoxville, and he was placed in Knoxville, right? That was just where the halfway house was. He met this guy called Dennis Smith or DJ Smith. And Fred learned from Dennis that Summer Wells was potentially alive and was living with a bunch of other kids, basically kept captive in a motel in Knoxville. So it's difficult to believe. However, Fred is going to go into this story. All right. There are YouTubers who recently contacted DJ's family. Is there? Is there really? Love escaping the goat. Love escaping the goat. I found Fred and Ziggy. Oh dear. Oh dear. Don't believe a word Fred Hill says. I struggle. I struggle with him. I'm just open-minded though. Like I said, it may turn out that when all's said and done, when we finally get answers as to what actually happened, it may turn out that some of what Fred said was true. So I'm not going to brand him with a liar, pants on fire, for every single thing he says. But I do struggle, especially when he changes his story. You know, changing his story as to, we went to the scrappy. You know, I wasn't there when Summer went missing because I took some cars to the scrappy in Kingsport. And then it turns out he didn't go to the scrappy and he went and, I don't know, took this old motorbike from somebody. The story changed completely. I can't get on board with people who change stories. I'm just glad Michelle hasn't got those stupid gems on. I don't even know what those gems are. What are the gems? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. And maybe YouTube's turned it on. If it's a new thing, YouTube may just have turned it on. I don't know. Anyway, I'll have to explore the gems. Well, actually, I'm on Michelle Walks. So let me see if I can initiate gems. Where's it in? No, doesn't give me an option to give me a gem. Super stickers, super chats, memberships, member gifting. All right, maybe I don't have gems on. All right.
From what I understand.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you believe that, and you believe that it was something that it was agreed to at first, and then she was never brought back.
Yeah. So
do you know what? That was my theory for a long time. That really was my theory for a long time. That they were, I mean, it's horrible to say it, but I made loads of videos. This would have been maybe Summer was missing for 2 or 3 months. And I was making loads of videos about what I believed happened. And it was that Summer was sold, but she wasn't sold permanently, if you know what I'm saying, that she was being rented out. And I hate myself for even saying the words now. But somebody paid for her and didn't bring her back. And I think what solidified that for me was that there was another case around the same time. It was a little bit later than Summer. A little girl who was 5, and this was in Georgia, I think, called Kamari Harris. And her mother sold her to a man for 1 hour for the unthinkable, and he paid $2,500, $2,500 to take Kamari for 1 hour. However, he didn't bring her back. He actually strangled her, and she was found dead in an unused house. Just a couple of days ago, that man, Jeremy Williams, has been executed. Let me get the story up. Here we are. Alabama. I'm sure she went missing in Georgia. But anyway, Alabama executes Jeremy Williams for 2021 murder of Georgia girl. There he was. He pled guilty. He was sentenced to death. He didn't want a deal. And he also didn't want to appeal. You know, when somebody's given the death penalty, they're allowed to basically sit on death row for like 30 years and appeal as many times as they want. Well, he waived his right for all appeals. So just a few days ago, he was executed. Alabama executed 42-year-old Jeremy Williams on Thursday evening, so 4 days ago, for the 2021 armed murder of a young Georgia girl, marking the state's first execution of the year. Williams was pronounced dead at 6:16 p.m., according to the Associated Press. I want to thank God for forgiving me for my sins so I can meet him in peace. You're not forgiven. You're rotting in hell. I'm sorry. You're not forgiven. Williams said while on the gurney. He rocked his head back and forth, smiled, and appeared to sing or speak before becoming still. He was given the lethal injection. A family member wept quietly nearby during his final moments. The backstory: Williams pled guilty to the horrific attack on 5-year-old Kamari Holland. According to prosecutors, Williams offered the child's mother $2,500 to allow the girl to perform before strangling. He filmed her. It's just horrendous. The victim's mother is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, having pled guilty to trafficking charges connected to the case. She should also get the death penalty. I'm sorry. I know she didn't directly kill her, but having that little regard for your own child, and imagine what state she would have been in. You know, if he hadn't killed her and he took her back after an hour, imagine what state she would have been in. I mean, what was this mother going to do with her? Get her counselling or just sell her again to the next person? Following the execution, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey released a statement addressing the severity of the crime. The unspeakable nature of this crime is exactly why we have the death penalty. Absolutely. So previously written to the Alabama Attorney General's office requesting an immediate execution date, claiming he wanted to provide the victim's family with closure. However, local law enforcement officials questioned his motives. Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor, who called the case the worst he had investigated in 39 years of law enforcement, suggested Williams sought a quick execution to avoid the reality of prison life. He didn't want to look over his shoulder for 30 years. Maybe, but at least he's gone. At least he's gone. Corey Holland. Did I say Harris? I think I said Kamari Harris earlier on. It's Kamari Holland. I'm thinking of Javea Harris, you know, the little girl from South Carolina. It's another one. That's another one we've got to follow. Anyway, Corey Holland, Kamari's father, remembered his daughter as an exuberant child who brought joy and laughter to those around her. She loved playing dress up, all her little Halloween costumes and her princess stuff I got her. All right. Okay. So, yeah, that news came out when Summer's case was quite new. And I think it kind of fueled my speculation that maybe something like that had happened in Summer's case. It happens. It absolutely happens. It absolutely happens. Anyway, back to this.
I understand. And when I'm assuming she agreed to it by the way she looked in that interview and stuff, news interview, when Don said she may not be alive now. And she looked at Don real funny, like, are you shitting me? But from what I understood, Alan Knoxville and stuff, this has all come from DJ Smith. And
DJ Smith, okay.
Dennis Smith.
Okay. Right.
He allowed a lot of things. I mean, and I don't know how he actually knew certain things without him being involved, but he allowed that he had talked to Playboy and stuff, but he did bring or send me.
Okay, so Playboy is the person who supposedly has been holding Summer and a bunch of other kids in a motel in Knoxville. And DJ Smith is aware of this and believes that Summer is amongst these children being held because his girlfriend, DJ's girlfriend at the time, was one of the people who had been, I don't know, employed maybe to look after these kids. So Playboy is the guy responsible for it, but DJ's girlfriend knew about it, was helping look after these kids, and nobody's noticed that there's a bunch of kids in a motel. And I mean, I don't know. Daughter of Scotland, member for 60 months. 60 months. That's 5 years. Thank you so much for being my oldest member. Thank you.
Voice clips, everything that was supposedly Summer talking and all that and stuff. And I mean, I had to turn it into the TBI, and he was well aware that I was going to turn it into the TBI.
So where are these voice clips? I mean, where are these voice clips? If Fred has supposedly heard these voice clips of Summer Wells speaking, well, where are they? You know, if I was Fred, I'd have wanted to record that voice clip. I'd have wanted a copy of that voice clip. I don't know. Maybe Fred wasn't in a position to ask for that. Who knows?
Because at first he wanted the revenge towards Playboy because of his dad being, or Playboy supposedly had killed his dad for something. I don't know the details. He didn't go in on that. But anyway,
Oh, wow.
I thought, well, I mentioned something about some reward money, and then he could make him feel more comfortable while talking, and he was got to want that reward money too, you see.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like,
100%.
well, you do know that everything between me and you has to be turned into TBI for you to collect that, don't you? He's like, yeah, and I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, I don't think there was a reward at this point. Because this is, when Fred was in the halfway house, it was like 2 years ago. I don't think there was a reward at that point. So.
And then that's when we started working on stuff. I mean, he would go to the motel and stuff, and supposedly his girlfriend was the woman that actually sit with the kids a lot, especially when Playboy was going to Atlanta getting the big shipments.
And when you say shipments, you're talking about like drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, getting his drugs, yeah.
So DJ Smith is going to this motel where all these kids have been kept. I mean, a bunch of kids, right? A bunch of kids being kept in a motel room. How does that work? Like, in the long term? Like, who's feeding them? What are they being kept for? How long could these kids stay hidden? I mean, surely they'd have to keep moving them around. I'm not really understanding how this would work if there's several kids being kept all together. Who's paying for their food? They're going to have to feed them. They're going to have to give them water. They're going to have to buy them clothes. Like, they're going to, like, Summer was 5. Well, she's now 10. So they're going to have to buy clothes for these kids. Like, how does this work long term? I know it happens. You know, you don't need to come to me and say, Michelle, it happens. I know it happens. But, you know, this is 2024 and Summer went missing in 2021. So she'll have been a prisoner for 3 years at this point. So she's grown. She's had to be fed. And if she's been in this motel in Knoxville for 3 years, well, how come no one's noticed? Yeah, I mean, hotel staff, they're going to ask questions. You know, these motel rooms, they've got to be cleaned. Who is paying for the rooms?
Okay. So you know the FBI searched the 3500 block of Van Hill Road.
Yes.
Which is your family members,
yes.
Correct?
Yes, it is.
During that search, did they unearth a vehicle? Did they uncover a vehicle and bring a vehicle out of the sand or dirt?
Not as I know of.
Okay.
They was more focused on. I mean, they was more focused on the pond somewhat, and then more inside of the home, from what I'm understanding, and more like looking for. They was going through his bank accounts, his wheels, everything like that. That makes me think they're looking for some kind of money transaction. That's what it tells me, you know, from what I'm understanding.
Okay. So it's more of a transaction kind of thing. They're trying to find.
That's what
money.
I'm understanding from the way they was talking. But I was told that they did find something, but it wasn't Summer.
So it wasn't Summer. They did find something, but it wasn't Summer. Okay, so the 3500 block of Van Hill Road. Now, this is something that we do know happened from law enforcement. If you remember, back in November of last year, November 2025, just completely out of the blue, law enforcement released that they had searched for Summer Wells on a property in the 3500 block of Van Hill Road. So a bunch of us pulled the property records, and lo and behold, guess who owns it? Guess who lives there? Paul Hill. Who's Paul Hill? Paul Hill is Fred Hill's uncle, which means that Paul Hill is Andy Bernard's great uncle. So it's like, oh, wow. So we've got this search, which is 9 miles away. The property on Van Hill is 9 miles away from Ben Hill, but it's got a direct link back to Ben Hill because Paul Hill is the uncle of Fred Hill, great uncle of Andy Bernard, both of whom were living on Ben Hill Road when Summer disappeared. So I was convinced that they were going to find something. I was absolutely convinced they were going to find something. Now, this property is 17 acres, and it is, or at least it was, a pig farm. So, you know, pigs will eat anything. Now, what Fred's saying here does make some sense, because what they didn't do is start digging up that property. They didn't spend long enough there to have been able to excavate 17 acres. You know, that's a lot to search. Now, it could well be that Freddie's right here, that they weren't interested in digging up the dirt to find, I don't know, bones and teeth and things like that. They were more interested in finding links between Paul Hill and any unusual, let's say, transactions that took place around the time of Summer's disappearance. Maybe that's what they were looking for. But they did take Paul Hill and his wife in for questioning, and they did search some parts of that property. Now, Fred's saying here that they focused on the house and the banking and stuff like that. What led them there was the red Toyota Tacoma. Do you remember the red Toyota Tacoma that was seen in the vicinity of Ben Hill and Beech Creek that a delivery driver saw either on the evening of the 14th of June or the evening of the 15th of June, 2021. And law enforcement have been looking for this Toyota Tacoma for years. And it turned out that Paul Hill did own, at the time Summer disappeared, he did own a red Toyota Tacoma. That was sold. So soon after Summer was reported missing, that truck was sold, and it ended up in South America somewhere. And the FBI tracked that truck down. And I don't know whether they found any evidence in that truck that was promising to them. I've no idea. I mean, this truck has changed hands, it's changed countries, it took the FBI a long time to track this truck down, but they tracked it down and it brought them to Paul Hill on Van Hill Road. So it makes sense what Fred's saying here, that they were more interested in Paul Hill's transactions because of the sale of the Toyota Tacoma. So presumably they were thinking, well, maybe he sold Summer at the same time he sold this truck. Who knows? Right? But this does make sense of what Fred's saying here. But I don't know whether it's true that they found anything, because law enforcement did not come back and give any updates. So we've no idea whether anything that they found at this property is at all relevant. We don't know.
It could have been a phone. It could have been anything. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. So do you think that there's I'm on the deal with the Morrison Cemetery.
Yes, I know that.
Right now. What is your opinion on that?
I personally wouldn't think she would be there, but anything's possible. You know that. I mean, only one that knows exactly where she's at, the ones that's done it. So with that being said, I mean, a lot of us is just guessing at where she could be.
Right, I understand that.
But in the way I would think, if it was an accident or something and somebody was trying to cover something up, most likely they would go to an area that they know well. Most likely they're not going to go to an area that they know that there's lots of cameras or a place that they've never been to, not knowing if there's cameras or anything. Most likely they'll go to a place that they've been to many, many times and the real feel safe as that area to dispose of something. That would be my opinion of it.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That you will dispose of a body in a place that you know well, a place where you know there's no cameras and stuff like that. It goes without saying. The Morrison Cemetery theory, I don't believe it personally. I don't believe that Summer is buried underneath Timothy Morrison. I did a video on it recently, but for those not knowing what's gone down there, Ernie Shell believes that Summer is buried underneath Timothy Morrison. Timothy Morrison is just some random guy in Beech Creek who died on the 11th of June, 2021. He was buried, his burial was the 18th of June. So during the time that Summer disappeared, Timothy Morrison's grave would have been open at some point, right? They, you know, preparing for the funeral, they'll have dug the hole, and there was conversations with the funeral people, and it was the Morrison family that dug the grave rather than the funeral people. They didn't do any of that. The Morrison family dug it. But I don't think anybody's saying that the Morrison family were involved in Summer's disappearance. The point is that there was this open grave, and the theory that Ernie's trying to push is that somebody realised that there was an open grave in Morrison Cemetery, which is just across the road from Summer's house, and they decided to dispose of Summer's body in this open grave. So they would go to this open grave in the dead of night, dig a hole, you know, go down into the hole that had already been dug, dig a little bit further, put Summer's body in it, then cover it over. And then when the funeral, you know, arrives, Timothy Morrison's body is put on top of Summer's body, and it's a perfect place to hide a body. And it's a good place to hide a body. I just don't think it happened. Because remember, who would have the nerve? Who would have the nerve to do that? You know, remember that there was a massive search. There was a massive search. No, I don't believe she's in Utah, no. There was a massive search. Like, they were running the heat-seeking helicopter and the plane, and, you know, the helicopter was running at night. There were searchers out at night. There was no time for somebody to brazenly take a body over the road, go to the grave, and bury a body. I don't believe anybody would be that brazen, given how close it is to Summer's house. Basically, ground zero. I don't believe someone would have the nerve to do that. Now, if the cemetery was further away and it was out of the search area, I would be more inclined to believe it possible. You know, if they could get the body out, then yeah, go and hide the body underneath another body. Perfect. I just don't believe it happened there. It's too close. It's ground zero for the searchers in exactly the time when there was literally hundreds of searchers out there. I don't believe it happened. I just don't think it's feasible.
And see, if you come out of Ben, see, there's cameras all over Ben Hill. That's what a lot of people don't understand. There's cameras that ain't even been mentioned. But so from Thompson's, where you turn over Simpson's back to Beech Creek Road, my understanding, they wasn't never no cameras. But from like Simpson Lane, you got the Thompson's camera, and then on Simpson Lane, up next to where the gate is, where you turn at the end, there's a camera right there on the right. And then if you go on up Ben Hill Road, I had 5 cameras, and then my mom and dad had surveillance cameras on the house. Then you've got.
So why has nobody caught anything on any of these cameras? Like Fred with his 5 cameras, the Thompsons had cameras. The Blue Roof Dawn on the corner had cameras. Let's just get the map up here. Now, I'm not going to get my Google Earth map up because I have to go out and come in. But let's just navigate here. Stop being blurry. Stop being blurry. Wipe it. Oh, there we go. All right, so Thompsons live here. This is the Thompsons. So they had a camera. That's the Thompsons' driveway. So they had a camera that is kind of parallel or across the road from Simpson Road here. So there was a camera there. Blue Roof Don on the corner. It's been well known that he had cameras. Now, Fred has recently announced that he had 5 cameras so that he could check for law enforcement coming in. You know, like when he was doing his meth dealing. He had 5 cameras situated between Simpson Road and wherever he was staying. So this is one of the properties that the Hill family had at the time Summer disappeared, 165, 167. And then further down here is 207. I think it's there. So Fred's dad owned the property there, 165, 167. Then Fred's mother owned 207. So between them, they had 2 properties. And Fred would switch between them. So Fred had 5 cameras, supposedly. But where are these cameras? And was any of that footage turned over to law enforcement? All right.
Richard Goley that's got like 5 cameras. Ed Redmond that's got dozens of cameras.
All right. Okay. All right. So Goley is living. This is Goley. So this is all Goley's land here. So he had cameras. Then Ed Redmond owns the property right at the back of Ben Hill. Like there's a lot of acreage that Ed Redmond owns. So he also had cameras. So all of these people coming in and out of Ben Hill would have been caught on all these cameras. So where are all the camera? Where's all the camera footage? I mean, if Summer had been abducted from Ben Hill Road, well, surely somebody somewhere would have seen something on a camera. Now, what we do know is the red Toyota Tacoma wasn't caught on any cameras. So because the red Toyota Tacoma wasn't caught on any cameras, you have to assume that it didn't come down Ben Hill Road because it would have been caught on Blue Roof Don's camera on the corner of Ben Hill. So wherever that was seen, it must have been on Beech Creek Road. But the fact that there were some cameras, I mean, I don't know whether Fred's exaggerating the number of cameras, but let's say there were cameras and the cops were able to get some camera footage from Ben Hill, they would know who was coming in and out. They didn't know how many times Candice left and at what time she left. They would have known if there was any unusual vehicles, and they would have known if the Toyota Tacoma went down Ben Hill. And we know it didn't because law enforcement have said that the red Toyota Tacoma that they're looking for wasn't caught on any cameras. So the driver of that Toyota Tacoma must have been aware that there was cameras, or else they would have just gone down Ben Hill Road. If that was the truck used to abduct Summer, they'd have just got as close to the property as they could, but they didn't. So I think when that was spotted, it must have been spotted on Beech Creek somewhere, rather than Ben Hill. They are all liars. This is why I don't believe anything. At the same time, I keep an open mind. I always ask the question, well, what if that's true? If that's true, then let's consider that possibility. But I don't believe anything is factual. Do we even believe a red Toyota Tacoma exists? Well, law enforcement believe it does. So I'm just going off what law enforcement have said. Law enforcement have been looking for a red Toyota Tacoma for years now. So they must have it on some, they must believe the source. I think they must believe the source. So.
And then there's cameras even on back the holler and stuff, you know.
Right.
And
so you do believe in that interview, and I know what interview you're talking about, because when he says she may not even be alive now, Candace does kind of look at him kind of funny,
what the fuck, you know. I mean, pardon my language. That's the way she looks at him, like with her mouth and the stuff just drop, like, really.
Right. And I know what you're talking about on that. So do you believe that maybe that this did happen? Like, what? I mean, do you think it was over like the $60,000 that people say, or that he was in debt? Do you know anything about that?
Only thing I know is what Dennis said at Knoxville about. He said it was Don still owed like 40-some thousand at that point. Supposedly Don was still taking money.
Okay.
So I don't really know.
So this is the Knoxville theory. So it's alleged by Fred that Don Wells and Andy Bernard collectively owed $60,000 to Playboy or Playboy's gang. And Don was threatened that if he didn't pay up, then something bad was going to happen. And it's because of Don's drug debt that Dennis Smith, or at least Playboy, took Summer. So Don does talk about, like, Don has said that the TBI believed that he had sold Summer for drugs or because of a debt. And that's what they accused Don of doing. And Don has kind of, said that, there's $50,000 and blah, blah, blah. So it kind of makes sense that potentially there could have been a drug debt and Summer was taken because of this debt. But where does Andy Bernard fit in any of that? Because if Andy Bernard also owned money to Playboy, well, why wasn't one of Andy Bernard's kids taken? Now, obviously, the boy was 19, so it would have been a little bit more difficult to kidnap a 19-year-old than it would be to kidnap a 5-year-old. Maybe Summer was just unlucky. Maybe they'd have taken any of the kids. If Jodie Sue's daughter was seen, out and about that afternoon, maybe she would have been taken. Or if one of the boys, the Summers brothers, were on Ben Hill Road at the time, maybe they would have been taken. Maybe Summer was just the unlucky one. Maybe any of the kids could have been taken. We don't know. We don't know that they were targeting Summer specifically. But supposedly, allegedly.
Oh.
So when you say taking money, I mean, how's he getting money? I thought he was like buying drugs or something and got in debt.
Well, he got quite a bit of dope, him and somebody else. And from what I understand, it was Andy Bernard and Don Wells. And this is why Andy don't like me, but I've really not got no problem with Andy. All I'm going on is what is referred to me that I didn't even know nothing about.
Right.
And then it's hard to put all this together.
Well, let me ask you a question. How come, everybody's mentioned, people, they've mentioned the Morrison Cemetery. Like, you said things about the Morrison Cemetery. There's Marlena said things about the Morrison Cemetery. It's just like, Andy Bernard said stuff about the Morrison Cemetery.
I mean, the only thing I said about it was it's a possibility, going by what I heard of Andy and all them. Andy.
Now, I don't know what Molina has said about Morrison Cemetery. Andy has spoken about Morrison Cemetery, saying, yeah, it's a good place to hide a body. Hide a body under another body. Yeah, it's a really good place. But he hasn't said, Andy has not said, as far as I understand it, as far as I've heard, Andy hasn't said, yeah, I believe Summer is buried in Morrison Cemetery. He has said that it's a good place to hide a body. But it doesn't mean to say that that's where Andy believes Summer's body was hidden. Anything's possible. I just don't believe it happened in that location. that you would have, because Timothy Morrison was buried on the 18th of June. So it had to be done between the 15th and the 18th. Well, that was the time when the search was the most extensive. They were going all night with the heat-seeking technology, like over and over and over, round and round and round. I don't think anybody would have dared to go out in the middle of the night and bury a body in that area. I just don't think it would have, nobody would have dared to do it.
Yeah, more or less Marlena talking about,
Right.
And
so how involved
online,
was
that was just online where I heard that. But far as when I was in jail everywhere, I've never heard nobody mention anything about Morrison Cemetery. Everybody, when I was locked up and stuff.
Oh, Andy did say that, did he? Oh, I haven't heard that. Or maybe I've just forgotten. He said he thinks she's in the cemetery and that he's not afraid to say it. Oh, maybe you did. Well, I'll take that back then. I just don't know how anybody would have been that brazen to do it. I just don't think in that look. If the cemetery was further away, if the cemetery being outside of the search area, I'd have been way more inclined to believe it could be possible that somebody could have, snuck out and gone out of the search area and not been seen. But to go in the cemetery, which is literally across the road, it's ground zero for the searchers. I just find it mind-boggling. I mean, if it turns out that Summer was buried underneath Timothy Morrison, it would be the most brazen disposal of a body that probably anybody's ever seen. Utterly brazen under the very noses of the searchers. I just find it difficult to believe it. Marlena said it too. Marlena said a lot, and Marlena is very, very incredible. Marlena's very difficult to believe.
It was talked about a lot in there, and everybody said that she was sold, pretty much.
Okay, hold on one second, Fred. Let me see what let me make sure we're getting this and everything. Let me make sure. I want to make sure everything's good. Okay, so it is. So let me make sure here. Yeah. So you had mentioned that while you was in jail, everybody had mentioned that she was sold.
Yes, that's what 99% of them was saying in jail. Nobody said that they thought it was an accident or nothing. Everybody was.
But just these random people that Fred Hill's in jail with, everybody's entitled to an opinion. So just because these inmates in, Fred's compadres in the jail believe that Summer was sold doesn't mean to say that Summer was sold. Just because the inmates said it in Hawkins County Jail doesn't make it so. What I believe or what any random inmate in Hawkins County Jail believes, nobody knows. They're just theorizing. And that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their theory. Anybody's entitled to their opinion. But that's all it is, an opinion. Everybody's got one in this case, and that's okay. But don't use these random inmates as a credible source of information.
They pretty much sold her. Whether I don't know if they meant really sold her or owed or what for,
So could she have been used to settle a debt maybe, or to give extra time for an extension?
Well, I was told through Dennis Smith that she was supposed to in hell until Don and them brought the money and paid, and then they would get her straight back. But when the transaction was made, when she was brought from point A to point B, Don called and tried to get out of having to pay, thought that if by him calling her in missing, that they would get scared and just bring her back and drop her out somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, that's what Dennis.
And that is a theory that law enforcement had. That is absolutely 100% a theory that law enforcement had. That somebody had abducted her and dropped her back off in the woods. And we know that from Dave Rader from Equisearch. And I have played that clip from Dave Rader so many times now. It's to the point of utter exhaustion. I've got it in so many videos. It was Dave Rader in conversation with the guys from Police Off the Cuff. And when Dave Rader got into town, he got into town to help with the search on the night of the 19th of June. So that would have been the Saturday. And he joined the search on the Sunday. On the Sunday morning, all of the searchers and, you know, everybody who was out there was talking about the search that had happened overnight. And it was the day that they found the footprints that they believed to be Summers. And the theory was, and the reason why law enforcement did an all-night search in that woods around where the footprints was found, because they believed, their working theory was, that Summer had been abducted and someone had dropped her back off in the woods, and now Summer's wandering those woods on her own. And that's why they did the all-night search on the 19th into the 20th of June. Obviously, they didn't find Summer, but that was law enforcement's theory at the time, and that is straight from the mouth of Dave Rader. And I don't believe Dave Rader would make up a story of a law enforcement theory if it wasn't true. If he didn't hear that firsthand, I don't believe that Dave Rader would have made that known. But that's what law enforcement believes. So that kind of makes sense, that if, you know, Don believed that by reporting her missing, they'd just bring her back without him having to pay any money. Well, maybe law enforcement got that theory, maybe from things Don had been saying. Who knows? I mean, who knows why they thought that Don had sold Summer for drugs, or she'd been taken because of a drug debt. There's a reason why TBI believe that. There's a reason why TBI and Hawkins County sheriffs believed that Summer had been abducted and then brought back and was wandering the woods by herself. It makes you think, doesn't it? It just makes you think.
And then they had to do what they had to do. Do you, or did he even mention what they did with her after that?
Well, she was still in Knoxville, last I heard. When I turned that information in, she was still supposed to be in Knoxville. And
but that was 3 years in. Because when he was staying at the halfway house in Knoxville, well, that was 2024. So it would have meant that Summer had been in a motel room in Knoxville for 3 years and no one's noticed. Candle Lee, member for 51 months, believes she was taken for a drug debt. I've got to say it's one of my, I'd say, top 3 theories. I think it's way more likely that something like that happened than a random accident or just an out-and-out first-degree murder. However, I don't believe that if kept her alive for 3 whole years, it's just too risky. It's just too risky.
Voice clips and stuff that he brought to me and stuff, or sent to my phone that I had took to the TBI of Summer and stuff talking. She talked like she was actually happy where she was at. That's why
really?
It kind of surprised me, because she was talking about her daddy coming and seeing her every 2 weeks and stuff. And then you got Dawn about the same time going online talking about how long Summer's hair's got. And then as DJ, I said, well, what's her hair look like now? And he said, well, it's down about her shoulders and they've got a perm in it and it's dyed red.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so Summer is now a redhead, or at least she was in 2024, with shoulder-length permed hair. So if Summer's out and about in Knoxville, they're taking her from place to place, no one's going to know that it's Summer Wells because she's got red permed hair. Makes sense, I guess.
That's crazy, man.
See, it's hard for me to dismiss this Knoxville stuff because there's so much to it that even I questioned DJ about with like a milk jug video and stuff. I'm like, well, they're saying she's dead right here on this milk jug video. He said, no, most likely they sedated her for the transaction, so she will not know who actually took her from point A to point B.
Really?
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, who's mentioned sedation? And he's already brought Andy's name up.
Really?
And see, I don't know if you need to put this on.
Yeah. Andy selling drugs to 110 so the girls could be sedated and touched. You know, if Fred is hearing things from this person and putting it all together into this theory that he believes, it doesn't mean to say he's out and out lying. He could be just piecing things together as everyone else is and coming up with something that isn't necessarily true, but it's just believable in Fred's mind. And that is quite believable. Andy it has been alleged, you know, Jody Sue saying that Andy was selling drugs to the children at 110 so that the girls could be sedated and touched. So I guess if they sedated Summer, they could have got her out without anybody really knowing. But then if that was true, where did the footprints come from?
YouTube or not, but I want to just discuss what I was told by Dennis.
Go ahead.
He said that Don and...
So we don't know what Fred was told by Dennis. We don't know whether Fred is making... I mean, Dennis does exist. He is an actual person. Dennis does exist. But Fred could have been listening to Dennis and Dennis making up a story. You know, just because Fred has supposedly heard voice clips from Summer Wells doesn't mean to say that that was Summer Wells. So we need to know what Dennis has said. And if this supposedly was all turned into the TBI, well, nothing's happened. So did they not find her? Has Dennis just shrugged his shoulders and said Fred Hill made it up? We don't know.
Andy owed money on the debt. And Don agreed to let Summer go and stay, or them take Summer, but Andy had to be the transporter. And he said a son, he didn't say whether he's Don's son or Andy's son, but I'm assuming he's talking about Andy's son. He said the son took Summer to the road, and then she was passed between 3 vehicles in a short period of time. And I'm thinking, okay, what vehicles did I...
But why would you? Right, if you were on the same road, why would you pass Summer between 3 different vehicles on the same road? Because this is where Fred supposedly saw 3 vehicles coming into Ben Hill Road. One of them was being driven by Andy. Now, Andy swears down that he wasn't on Ben Hill Road that day, or at least not at that time. Obviously, he was on Ben Hill Road that day because he lived there. But at that time, well, okay, Andy's on camera at work. So Andy has an alibi. Andy believes that Fred's just got the day wrong. Not that Fred's lying to get Andy in trouble, but just that he got the day wrong. Because Andy did have words with Fred on the 14th when he was coming in and Fred was going out, and they exchanged words. So Fred's just got the day wrong. But Fred is convinced that there was 3 vehicles on Ben Hill Road. Well, if there was 3 vehicles on Ben Hill Road, those vehicles would have been caught on at least 1 camera. So have the TBI traced all of these vehicles that came in on Ben Hill Road, and one of them had Summer Wells in it? Should have been easy for the law enforcement to trace if there's all these cameras on Ben Hill Road. So that doesn't make sense to me. That really doesn't make sense to me.
See that day, what vehicles I see? Well, then I'm thinking the odd ones was only ones I hadn't seen before was the Mississippi tag, the blue truck, and the white HHR. And then I'm thinking, well, if she was thought off too, and then see, Andy he won't allow, he was not on the road. But
you see, and the thing is, these vehicles that Fred supposedly saw, the details that he's given about those 3 vehicles aren't consistent. So that's a red flag right there, that Fred's description of these vehicles isn't consistent across the different versions of the story that he's given over the years.
He is on camera, and law enforcement even made a joke about they'd asked him, and he denied being on the road and didn't act like he didn't even know what he drove, and they showed him a picture, and they was laughing about how he acted when they showed him the picture, you know, of him being on the road. But
that's not what law enforcement have said. That's not what law enforcement have said.
The three vehicles, he said she was passed off in a short period of time between 3 vehicles. And the Mississippi tag was supposed to have been checked out. The only one that wasn't checked out and ain't found was the white HHR and the blue truck that followed Andy out. So was it handed to Andy first, and then Andy handed her the blue truck, and then handed to the white HHR?
But why would you do that? Why would a kidnapper do that? Like from one vehicle to another vehicle to another vehicle all at the same time. Why would you do that? I suppose so that, you know, when you're passing cameras, law enforcement don't know which vehicle someone was in, but you'd just be able to trace all the vehicles because all of those vehicles would have been caught on camera. So it doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm thinking.
During all this, so during all this and everything, did Don actually know what was going on, or Candace?
About the Knoxville stuff, I mean, they had to agree on.
No, I mean about why they're coming to get her and everything.
Yes, it was all set up. I'm assuming the Dunn text and all that is, because Andy was in Holler at 3:47, the last time coming out by the lights camera. He was back at Zoomer's at 5:30 getting gas. Then Jody tried to play where I said, oh, Andy took off several days after that. Jody tried to put up a time card trying to show that Andy was at work that day, that week. And on June the 15th, on Tuesday, he showed he checked out, timed out on 12 a.m. and never checked back in.
Wow.
On the time card that she tried to present as
12 a.m. is midnight, so I think it must be 12 p.m. that he means. 12 p.m. is midday.
Evidence that Andy had worked all the week, you see.
Now, what Andy has said is that he left work early on the 14th, the day before, because of the Jackie Dobbs stuff. That Jackie Dobbs turned up, you know, to get access to his own land that he bought. But Jody Sue and Andy stopped him and drove him away. That happened on the 14th, not the 15th. So Fred is thinking that the 14th was the 15th.
So Jody Sue. So what was does Jody Sue even have a part in this?
I think she's covering for Damien. Because see, way I'm looking at it, if Andy was probably thinking, well, only way I can get by with this and not, you know, if I get Damien to go up there and bring her to the road, then he can't say nothing. And then Jody can't say nothing because she knows she ain't going to incriminate her son. So it just ties all of them's mouth up, you see. And then
Damien, so you're saying Damien, the one that went to the Army?
Yes.
So you're saying that.
And when I was recording and stuff, what makes me think Jody didn't have no cameras at all on the 15th when I was recording, when I first got down there recording this stuff, Damien walked down and brought a trail camera and asked Jody where to put it up. And she said, like a third tree up on the right, which is a big pine tree. And he put it up and he disappeared. That's the only time you've seen him the whole time down there. He was like, he did not want to be seen, no nothing, no conversations with nobody, no nothing. But the daughter, she walked up and down the hill several times. I mean, in the 3 days I recorded and stuff.
So these are the recordings that Fred Hill supposedly did for law enforcement. You know, the wire that supposedly Fred wore for law enforcement, you know, to catch Don out. So they gave him this wire on the 15th, supposedly to catch Don out. Okay.
So during you was so when you was working, so you're pretty much working with the TBI, correct?
Well, mostly Hawkins County, the special tactics and drug task force, pretty much the same thing. Third Judicial Drug Task Force with Scott Stewart's team, pretty much.
Scott, okay, so and is that so? Let me ask you. You know, Scott's taking office here in about literally 15 days, 16 days.
Yeah.
He's going to be in office.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a good change.
So Scott Stewart is the new sheriff, or he will be as of the 1st of September because Ronnie Lawson is retiring.
You do?
Yep.
I have heard from other law enforcement officers from other counties that talk to, you know, the specific counties involved, that they will be questioning, arrest, and stuff made right off the bat.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. But see, Scott's team, when they first come to me and wanted me recording stuff, the main thing they wanted me hit on Don with was who he owed. Because they done knew about his oldest son that he tried to sell in Arkansas or wherever at that point. So he had to be in a database somewhere.
So when he went to Arkansas, he tried to sell his oldest son. Is that what
How would that have been in a database somewhere? So supposedly, this is something that one of Don's stepsisters said. That we're not talking about Summer's eldest brother. We're talking about the eldest half brother. So the son that he had with his ex-wife, Donnie Jr., who's like in his 30s now. But when he was little, Don supposedly tried to sell him for drugs. This is only according to Don's stepsister. There's no record of this in police records anywhere. So on the 15th of June, how would Hawkins County Sheriff's Office have been able to find out that Don supposedly tried to sell his eldest son in Arkansas? Where would that have been recorded? So that doesn't make sense. You know, Fred's trying to piece too many things together here that don't make sense, because on the 15th of June, so the very day someone disappeared, there wouldn't have been a police investigation that was powerful enough or soon enough to be able to get those kind of details. Maybe at some point down the line, maybe like a week later or 2 weeks later, maybe they'd have heard those stories and maybe they'd have, you know, law enforcement being suspicious about it. But it's not recorded in police records because there was no conviction. There was no charges laid or a conviction for him doing that, if indeed that happened. So all law enforcement would have had in those, you know, early weeks would have been somebody's word for it. Hearsay.
What you're saying?
Well, when him and Pam was together, wherever they lived, I don't know if it's Arkansas or where, but it was, I'm thinking it was Arkansas. But it was his very first son that he was standing on a street corner trying to sell or whatever.
Do you know how much he was trying to get out of his son?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just going by what I had heard, you know. But the law enforcement done
and that's the stepsisters. Yeah, gossip. Yeah, essentially, yeah. It's hearsay. It's what somebody has said happened years ago. And there's no corroboration of that story at all. No one's ever corroborated it. There's no way to corroborate it. It's just one person's word.
Because that's how I found out about Don trying to sell his first son, because they was like, okay, if you agree to recording the stuff, because we didn't know Don's tried to take and sell his other son, his first son, by his first wife.
They wouldn't tell Fred that. They wouldn't go to Fred on the night of the 15th of June, so the very day that Summer disappeared, and said, Fred, can you record for us? Can you wear a wire for us? Because we know that Don tried to sell his eldest son years ago. That did not happen. I'm sorry. That did not happen.
We need you to take and try to hit on Don any which way you can and try to find out who he owed.
Right.
And see, this is coming from Scott Stewart's team at first, so I don't know what their agenda is now, most likely.
So you know what they're going to hit the ground running with when it comes time, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
and it's going to be
by them done presenting that from day one.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be fair to say that they're going to arrest Candace because they know she will crack when put in the interrogation room?
Yeah, it would be fair if they would do that, but in my opinion, they would get Damien first.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of
because of his military career and what he's up and what he's got to lose.
Somebody's talking, Ernie.
Uh-huh.
I got a phone call and I did say,
oh God, Jodie Sue's going to hit the roof when she hears this. I mean, you know, Damien, he's her son. He was an adult. He was 19 when Summer disappears, so he's going to be like 24 now. But he's still her son, so she's very defensive. When anybody brings up Damien, she is very, very defensive. And you might say, well, that's just her being a mama bear. You know, she's very defensive. And who wouldn't be? You know, if your adult son is being accused of this thing and this thing and this thing on the internet, well, yeah, of course you're going to be defensive. I would be. I would, you know, I would come out all guns blazing if somebody was doing that with one of my sons online. I understand. But somebody's talking. Well, Damien's been in the army for a couple of years now. Maybe, I don't know, 3 years maybe? I don't know when he joined. But it wasn't straight after Summer disappeared, as some people are saying. It was months, if not a year or more later. She'll blame me. She always blames me. I know. She always blames me.
With another creator, but somebody's being questioned in Knoxville about a month ago.
Really? Now I heard that people were talking.
Dennis Smith is being questioned. He's in.
But he's supposed to be transferred to Blount County.
Huh?
He's supposed to be transferred to Blount County.
Yeah, now I think he is, but he was in Knoxville County when the guy that contacted me the other day on the phone call, he just contacted me out of the blue. He's like, because we had been in the halfway house and he just got out of jail and went back to that same halfway house, this boy that called me, and he's like, hey, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, they've been pulling Dennis out and taking him upstairs and questioning him about Summer Wells. And I'm like,
wow.
And he said, it's usually not good when they're taking them upstairs like that.
Well, yeah, of course they're going to interview Dennis Smith. You know, because if Fred's called this into TBI, of course they're going to interview Dennis Smith to find out whether there's any kind of truth in it.
Wow. So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you told anybody, any other YouTuber this?
What about the phone call?
No, yeah, about what's going on now, what you're telling me.
I've tried to talk to a few of them offline and stuff about some of it, but I'm not went in details of how it was all supposed to happen, no.
So everything you're telling me right now is pretty much new right now, in detail.
I mean, as far as who was supposed to actually took her to the road and everything, you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm just not wanting to out them like that, you know, and I've been trying to give the TBI and stuff time to take and do what they need to do if it is important in this case, you know.
Yes. So let me ask you a question, Fred. And you heard the Hatfield and McCoy's interview with Don Wells and Candace, and you know, and truth.
Yeah, Fred does. He seems to weave together rumors. Yeah, he does. I mean, look, you know, if he's completely innocent and he has absolutely no involvement in Summer's disappearance at all, and he's a neighbor who, you know, knows these people, of course he's gonna want to try to work out what happened. Of course he's going to be listening to all the same rumors that we are, and he's going to theorize and he's going to put things together. And it doesn't mean to say it's true, but it also doesn't mean to say that Fred is out and out lying. But what I don't like about Fred, and why I find anything he says difficult to believe, is that his stories change, his stories develop. So he says one thing in one version and then something else in another version. I don't like that. Who's Pamela Wells? Don Wells' first wife that he had 2 children with years and years and years ago.
He happened to be on the phone.
Yeah, I've heard bits and pieces of it, yeah.
Well, why do they keep mentioning my name and that I'm costing Hawkins County bukus of money?
I wouldn't have no idea. I don't see you costing them nothing.
Do you think that, from what you know about the case and everything, am I on the right track, though? Am I rattling the cages?
You're rattling a lot of cages of them, I'm sure, But I don't know. I mean, that's just my speculation on it.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can you believe 2 women married him? I know. I know. Now with Fred away, he's still keeping in touch with the jailhouse friends. Yeah, he's got a really good network, does Fred.
Like me, I don't know really what's really happened this summer, and I feel like every rock needs to be turned, because we don't. Just like the investigator said, if we point.
But remember, right, when Fred was in jail, do you remember the jailhouse phone calls that he had with Ziggy, that Ziggy put online? And do you remember that Fred said that Summer had been taken by Cotton Simpson? Does anybody remember this? Now, this is in the same time frame that he's talking to all of these people in Hawkins County Jail. Now, it's before Dennis Smith, because Dennis Smith happened when he was in the halfway house. But it was the time he was in jail where all these inmates are telling him that Summer's been sold. Well, Fred is on the phone with Ziggy saying that Cotton Simpson took her and hid her body underneath a waterfall. So like in a cave that is behind a waterfall. So where did that story come from? And he was absolutely convinced of it, that Cotton Simpson told him that he'd taken Summer. And Ryan finds truth, bless his heart, tried his best to find this waterfall and this cave in Laurel Run Park. So I can understand if it's just one of Fred's theories, but he doesn't talk like that. It talked like he knew. It talked like he'd been told that Cotton Simpson was sleeping with Candace and also with Summer, and Cotton Simpson was all involved in it. And Cotton Simpson abducted Summer and killed her and put her body in a waterfall. So blame the dead guy. Cotton Simpson can't fight back because he's dead. So where's the story of Cotton Simpson gone? Because if that's what Cotton Simpson told him, well, why is Fred not bringing that up anymore? Why is Fred now saying it was Damien who got Summer, and then Andy who took her out of the holler, and then took her to Knoxville, and Playboy's holding her in Knoxville? Well, where did the Cotton Simpson story go? You can't just blame this person and that person and another person, and you're talking like it's fact. You can't do that. All right, if it's a theory, fine. But by saying this happened, and you're talking as if you're credible, that's a completely different story. That's a completely different ball game. Holly has been a member for 44 months. Whoop, whoop. No wonder Geordie Sue is big mad. Wow. She's mad about a lot of things.
Oliver focus on one thing, then we're going to miss something over here. We can't look at it as she just walked off the hill. We got to look at it as maybe she could have been kidnapped, or maybe this, or maybe that. And I tried not to be biased, And the only thing I knew about Andy, I know he was on that road that day. And that there was many people on the road that day. I mean, I can give a name drop. I have to get my paper to give a name drop of everybody that was on the road that day. But see, what was strange, that morning, Don left out with the boys that morning. But what time did he bring the boys back is my question. he had to bring them back at a certain point.
Well, the cops will know that because of all these cameras on Ben Hill Road. Thank you so much. Dabba Lady. Thank you so much for the $2. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, 100K. 100K.
So let me ask you a question. With the swimming hole and everything, is the metadata, when Gavelgeek shows the metadata, the metadata is there for summer.
Oh, yeah.
But at 3:10 p.m. or 3:09 p.m., 3:10, 3:09, summer's never seen again.
Yeah. And you know what was strange too about...
Well, she's not seen again on camera. Like, that was the last video and the last photo taken of Summer. The milk jugs video and the milk jugs photo at 3:09. But just because there's no more photos of Summer after that point doesn't mean to say she was dead in that photo. It just means that there weren't any more photos taken of her because she went missing later that afternoon.
Killbilly being up on your panel last night, and he kept talking about that guy in the feds for 15 years and stuff.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about Josh Stedman. And,
well, I thought he was talking about Josh, and I named Josh, and he said no.
Well, there's two that I know of in that area that got fed time around, you know, that 15 years was Josh Stedman or Josh Davis. But way he was talking about all sleeved out with tattoos, all this, all that, that told me it was Josh Stedman he was talking about. But see,
wow.
You know what's ironic about that is, you know where the milk jug video was taken?
Okay.
On Merle Road, right there at the corner of Merle and Lone Star. He lives right there in that camper right on the corner.
Really?
Yes. That's where he did live, but he's in Penn now for me time.
Right. So, you know,
I mean, I don't know what he was referring to as at that person or whatever, but that's who I'm.
He didn't join the army quickly. It was at least a year after. At least a year. He didn't join the army quickly. And the army's not going to protect him.
Pretty sure he's talking about.
Right, right. So the feds, the feds have contacted you. Do they still keep contact with you, Fred?
I ain't never talked to the feds at all.
Okay, Hawkins County. Sorry about that.
To the FBI. I've just talked to mostly Hawkins County and.
Yeah, Fred was on Ben Hill Road that day. Yeah. But there was loads of people on Ben Hill Road that day because people live down there. So it wouldn't be strange that they were there because they live there. Have Summer's brothers been interviewed? Yes, many times. Many times. They were interviewed early on. They were spoken to on the very night that Summer disappeared, informally by Sheriff Ronnie Lawson. And we know what the boys said about where they last saw Summer. And they didn't last see Summer going down to the basement, according to Sheriff Ronnie Lawson's communication with WJHL, which I've talked about many times. But the boys were formally interviewed. They were taken to specialists. They've been interviewed many times. Many times.
The TBI.
Right, TBI, feds. Right, right. So the feds, the feds have contacted you. Do they still keep contact with you, Fred?
I ain't never talked to the feds at all.
Okay, Hawkins County. Sorry about that.
To the FBI. I've just talked to mostly Hawkins County and the TBI.
Right, TBI, feds, TBI. What's TBI?
Most time I went, and only time I talked to the TBI was on the 16th. It was middle of the day. They come and took it and wrote everything down. Same thing as Hawkins County did on the evening of the 15th. You know, you had to give a statement, and they took a statement. You know, that's the only time I talked to them, other than when I went to Hawkins County to download my phone, and then they sent that guy from Knox County back to Hawkins County to download everything off my phone. And while he was on route, we were sitting there going over where the locations of the motels was, everything that, from what I understood through Dennis, where they was at, you know.
Uh-huh. So when all that's happened, and everything, like, wow, that's give me that's a new
but see, when
something new that
right. I might be being a bit naive here, but if the TBI got a credible tip that kids were being held, kidnapped children were being held at a motel in Knoxville, wouldn't they just do a raid on that motel? Wouldn't they just, you know, swoop? You know, it'd be like one of those dawn raids where they just hit, you know, with armed officers jumping through windows, and, you know, it'd just be a big thing, wouldn't it? Would they not do that? Would they not just raid the motel? Do you think they swapped the date she really went missing? No. We know absolutely the day that she went missing.
I took that information, my phone in and stuff, and was giving them that information. I had another person with me that took me there. It actually, you said something about coming to Knoxville. You was going to roll up or something other at Knoxville and try to interview me or something other. And I'm like, well, just meet me at Hawkins County because I got to turn this in.
Yeah, they've done numerous raids. The TBI have done numerous raids over the last 5 years that someone has been missing. There's been a bunch of, recently there was 30 kids found. Not in Knoxville, but it was a TBI raid. So yeah, of course they do find things. But it wasn't like a raid finding 30 kids. It was a week where they basically blitzed the missing persons database and found a bunch of people who'd been missing, not all in one place, but, you know, I think one person was located in Georgia, and these weren't kids who'd been trafficked. These were kids that had either run away or custody dispute or whatever. So yeah, we do know that when the TBI want to act, they get results.
Anyway, and then it went.
I remember that. Remember we talked about. Remember when we were talking about the hotels and human trafficking, and I told you I knew where they're at. You remember how we talked about that?
Yeah. But
I remember that.
But see, when I was sitting there, and we was going over the maps and stuff, and identifying DJ Smith and all that, and because they putting the file together at that point, they had a file was putting it together. His mug shots, everything, and they didn't let on like they knowed where he was at, everything at that point. Whether they got up with him or not, I don't know. But
wasn't DJ Smith staying in the same halfway house that Fred was? Wasn't that where Fred found this DJ guy?
They was putting a file together and stuff, and they're like, I said something about Pruitt, and they're like, we ain't sending none of this on to Pruitt's desk because it's going in the trash. This here is not even going to touch Pruitt's desk.
Wow. So Detective Pruitt.
That was
right.
Embarrassing for TBI to be outsmarted by a bunch of crackheads. Yeah.
I have investigators that was looking over the stuff, and we was discussing the maps and stuff, and then there was another guy sitting at the end of the table that was supposed to be in the sniper or something other for Hawkins County, the special tactics unit. He was sitting there.
The SWAT, the special weapons and tactics. Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, they allowed that. They did not want none of that information at all to go over Pruitt's desk because they said that most of the stuff that was coming in was going straight in the trash. And evidently they thought there was something to this, or they went and took it as serious as they did that day. I was there for several hours. Of course, it took out a while to get up there to download everything off my phone. And see, when they downloaded my stuff off my phone the first day Summer went missing and stuff, they wasn't nothing ever missing and nothing. But when I turned that information in, everything was wiped clean for as all our conversations, everything with DJ. It was like I never even talked to him.
Oh, well, that's convenient, isn't it? So you can't show the conversations with DJ. That's very convenient.
Wow. So who would have wiped them clean? Would that have been a detective?
Well, when the TBI come up there and downloaded all of it off my phone, I'm assuming that they done away with what was on my phone, so I couldn't be sharing it with other people or whatever. I'm assuming. I'm a guess.
Right.
I don't know, but
Right.
I just know it was no longer there. There was a couple. I mean, he didn't delete that I hadn't talked to him, Dennis. He still left up a few little things like discussing halfway house that he had. I texted him a couple of times, like, your mail's here, or you've got a package that's been delivered, because I pretty much run a lot of the halfway house when I was there, doing a lot of their drug screens and stuff, or drug court and stuff at 5 o'clock in the mornings and stuff. And so the reason Dennis actually left, he OD'd and stuff, and we was getting ready to try to get him into an inpatient, and he took off.
Oh,
Right. So,
I see. So that's the reason why the cops couldn't find him, because he did a runner. So he OD'd. They were trying to get him into an inpatient, and then he ran away. Well, if you've OD'd, I don't know that you're in any position to be able to run very far.
Well, let me ask you a question. You mentioned that, you got a friend that's in jail, or that's talking about how they'll keep pulling Dennis Smith out. They keep pulling Dennis Samuel Smith out, and saying they're taking him upstairs to talk about the Summer Wells. Mm-hmm. See, I've heard that again from somebody else too that's got people in jail, and they're collaborating your story there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going by what he told me. He had just been out not long, and he got back to the halfway house and got access to a phone and stuff, and I'd have to see him active, and I'm like, hey, what's up? I ain't seen you in a while. And then he's like, I need to tell you something. Can you call me? And then I called him, and we was on FaceTime. He's like, I can't talk on.
No, you're thinking of two separate people. So Killer found DJ Smith. It's the lad on JLR's video when they found the ritual spot. No, it's not. The person that you're thinking of on JLR's video was Brandon Clark, not DJ Smith. DJ Smith is in and out of jails and stuff in the Knoxville area. He's a completely different person than Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is the person on JLR's video.
FaceTime, I'm in the halfway house. He said, call me straight back on and not do FaceTime, which I did. And then I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was just going to shoot the shit or something about something stupid. And I went and recording the first part of it, and he was talking about they was pulling Dennis out and stuff and talking to him. And then they was somebody contacting him through a certain Gmail, Dennis, and Dennis was showing him a certain email and stuff that was being sent back and forward, talking about Summer's case and stuff, which I'm not for sure who owns that email, but I can send you the clip of that when we get through.
Yeah, I appreciate that and everything. Well, man, I mean, I think I've talked to you. I said we're just going to have just a conversation, and so I have heard, and this is one thing that's kind of keeping us at bay too, because other law enforcement are telling us, "Hey, guys, look, just wait on the new sheriff.
That's what
it's going to be big."
That's one reason I'm not really on YouTube or nothing no more, because I know Scott most likely going to do great things. I mean, listen, Scott's one had me busted. He's one that made the buys off of me and stuff, my drug charges and stuff. But I'm grateful that Scott had me busted. He saved my life. And I have nothing but good for Scott Stewart for that.
Wow. Do you believe Summer's going to be found?
I just wonder if she's already been found. But then after the Knoxville stuff, you see, then they went and searched that property up there on Van Hill at 3500 block. And then you're like, well, was that information any useful? Was he lying, or was it truthful, or what are they up there looking for? And then there's certain ones that got certain ties to that place more. than other people. Because when Andy first went to jail and stuff the very first time, his mama Felita, the one that lived at 125 that raised him, she was taking and getting money off of Powell, and Powell was putting it on Andy's books and taking care of Andy while he's in jail and stuff at that time.
Right.
So, and then you got Andy mentioning he had stopped by Frankie's the night of the 14th when they was looking for Jackie Dobbs, but I don't even know why he even brought that up when I was recording that day, you see. He's like, yeah, when we went to look for Jackie Dobbs all down the creek and went to Baileyton and stuff, he said, when I went by Frankie's, I guess he just said it because we're cousins, you know. He said, I went by Frankie's, and when I went by, he said, I seen Frankie working on a Jeep and stuff. And he said, when I come back by, I just stopped and told him, hey, man, if you need any Jeep parts, just holler at me. But that was all he said about stopping there. But he did stop there, you see.
Right, so there's nothing unusual about that. So, right, we've heard from Geordie Sue that on the night of the 14th of June, and she originally said when they were looking for Summer, and then she changed it because she realised that Summer wasn't missing yet. So she changed it to, this is when they were searching for Jackie Dobbs, because not only did they run him off his own land, right, and made him leave off his own land, they made sure that he'd gone out of the area, and they went and searched down every holler between Ben Hill and Baileyton. Well, Baileyton is the property on Van Hill Road is on the way to Baileyton. So when Andy and Geordie Sue were passing Van Hill Road, if they saw Frankie on the road, Frankie Hill, well, it's Fred's cousin. It's also, and it'd be Andy's second cousin. So they know each other. So if Andy passed Frankie on the road on the night of the 14th, well, Summer's not missing yet. So it's not really relevant because Summer's not missing yet.
He did. You're right.
Whether it was just something innocent or whether it was something else, I don't know.
And whether Paul Hill was putting money on Andy's books when he was in jail, well, we don't know. He may have been, because Paul Hill apparently was quite a generous guy. Like, he'd give people stuff, and, you know, he's very generous. So he may have, because Fleda, Andy's grandma, is Paul's sister. So it could be that Fleda asked Paul if he could put some money on Andy's books. So that could be true. Obviously, we don't know. It's a long time ago. Fleda's dead. We've no idea. We can't corroborate any of this. But it kind of makes sense.
I won't know. I'm just going by what was recorded.
I understand that.
I mean, I've got, well...
Don't forget the meth monkeys, yeah. Absolutely. Guess we know about 5% of it all. Yeah.
Was recording stuff for them the first few days. I mean, there's so much that Jody's put out and stuff and really told some truths about it, but she made it into more gruesome than it was, you know. I mean, just like the dream that Andy was supposed to have that she put out. I knew about it on the 16th. It's on the recording.
What?
And the daughters went.
How? So the dream that Andy supposedly had, the dream supposedly that he saw Summer's dead body, and then he told his kids to terrify them, and Geordie Sue's talked about it, Andy's talked about it. So if Andy had that dream the very first night Summer was missing, then conceivably he could have been talking about it on the 16th when Fred was wearing his wire for law enforcement. But it's a strange dream to have on the very first night Summer's missing. That's odd.
That walked down the hill and brought it up to Jody. And then Jody hollered at Andy and asked him about it. And he's like, oh, it was just a effing dream, blah, 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 you know. And then Jody's like, well, when did you see her, Summer last? He said, well, I seen her on the, what was it? The night of the 14th, but he said, I didn't see her when I went over earlier on the 15th. And then, you know, he was up on your panel and stated, well, the done text was he was trying to hide taking something to Candace or whatever, and Jody not know about it or something in that phrase.
Right.
Was that on the 14th or was that on the 15th that happened, or was it on the 16th? But see, a lot of stuff I can't put my finger to what was going on, because on the 15th, see, after Dawn left from my place, everybody wants to think Dawn and Candace come to my place first. Candace went to Donnie Chambers first, and then came to my house.
Wait a minute.
So that's new. He's never said that before. So remember, when Candace was seen on his driveway, now he didn't see her, Fred didn't see her, because he'd already left for the scrappy. Then he didn't go to the scrappy, changed his story. But it was Chad Arnold that saw Candace on his driveway. So now we're hearing that Candace went to Donnie Chambers' house first before she went to Fred's. Okay, that would make sense if she was looking for Summer. Now, Fred has changed the time that Candace was seen on his driveway, because originally and for a long time he said that it was about 4:30, and he's now changed it to Chad Arnold saw Candace at 5:30. Now, if Candace was seen at Donnie Chambers' house, which is the house on the corner, Blue Roof, the Blue Roof Don house, he has cameras. So if Candace went there looking for Summer, she'll be on camera looking for Summer at either 4:30 or 5:30, right, whichever time. But then Fred's just said that she went to Donnie Chambers' house first and then went to his house down here, where that's 165, 167. 207's down here. Yeah, that's 165. That's 165 with the circular driveway. One of these is one of Fred's uncle's houses. I never remember which one. And then 207 is that. I don't know whether that's 207 or whether that's 207. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. But does it? Oh, there's 165. What's that? 148 to 182. That's not right. That doesn't even have an address. I think Google's on drugs. 283 to 25. Google's on drugs. But anyway, I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So if Candace went to Donnie Chambers first and then went down the holler to look for Summer, that makes absolute sense. Now, at what time was she looking for Summer? Fred said 4:30, then he said 5:30. 5:30 makes more sense with the timeline. But anyway, that's new.
Why would she go to Donnie Chambers for?
I'm assuming that, well, they usually sit and play a lot right there, the kids and stuff, around the stop sign and down that long stretch right there. As soon as you turn off of Beech Creek onto Ben Hill, I see them play right there a lot with Candace. You know, Candace is usually parked at that stop sign and they'll play up down through her. But she could, I don't know why she went to Donnie's first, you know, unless she just trying to play stuff off.
Do you find...
No, probably to say, have you seen Summer? I can't find Summer. Have you seen her? Because we do know that Don Chambers did help. Like, even before the cops got there, Don Chambers was out looking for Summer. So we do know that he was aware Summer was missing before the cops even got there. So that could be because Candice went there. Makes sense.
Do you find that maybe those photos that were taken of Summer and the videos that were taken of Summer and Grandis kind of like do you believe they were used for time placements?
A possibility.
No, I don't believe.
I mean, it's just odd that they would way it was.
I don't believe that those photos and videos taken of Summer earlier on in the day were for time placements. I think they were photos taken on a day when Summer was out and about, because Candice took a lot of photos. Candice took tons of photos. So it's not unusual for Candice to take photos every time she goes out. If there was photos of Summer that she'd taken on the 15th of June and she wasn't a person who took a lot of photos, then yeah, that would raise my suspicion. But because Candice took a lot of photos anyway, it doesn't raise my suspicion that Summer was photographed on that day. It doesn't make sense to even be suspicious about it.
Presented, you know.
Right.
Try knocking your damn cigarette. But yeah, I mean, and that is like Don wants to holler that, oh, the CPS. If I had one question, I mean, to really drill Candice on, who was the woman you was talking to at the aquatic center, supposedly on the 15th between 11 and 11:30, discussing the DCS paperwork and stuff? And it was a blonde-headed woman and another woman, what I'm told, from pretty good, reliable source, and she had several children with her, all about Summer's age, all girls.
Really?
All right, so this is a story that I've never heard before. Candice at the aquatic centre, so this presumably would be in Kingsport, on the day of the 15th, talking to a woman who had loads of kids with her, all girls. Okay. From a reliable source. Well, no one's ever mentioned this source. In 5 years, no one's ever mentioned that Candice was talking to someone at the aquatic centre on the 15th of June. You've heard that about the aquatic centre. I've never heard the aquatic centre mentioned. They did go to the, there was an aquarium. There was photos taken of Summer at an aquarium, but it wasn't on the 15th of June. It was well before. It was probably weeks before. So it wasn't on the 15th. So if Fred has heard a story or has seen photos of Summer at an aquatic centre, well, yes, she did go to an aquarium, but it was earlier on, not on the 15th. Fred gets his days mixed up. You believe Fred has the wrong date? Yes, the pic of Candice and Grandma wasn't on the 15th. Yeah, it's not on the 15th. He's talking about a completely different day. I could probably even find the photo of Summer at an aquatic centre, but it wasn't the 15th of June. It wasn't. It was well before. It wasn't like years before, but it wasn't that day. It was, I think Summer had really short hair, so it was maybe between April and June, but it wasn't the 15th. That's the important thing. It wasn't the 15th of June.
And see, one of the phone calls, Ziggy talked to Don, I don't know, it was back in December, I think it was. We finally got him to talk for a minute, and I asked to speak to Candice, and, you know, Ziggy talked to him, and I said, can I talk to Candice? He said, well, I got her. She's right here. And I'm like, Candice, who was that you talked to at the aquatic center on the 15th? About the DCS stuff? She said, oh, that wasn't on the 15th. She did talk to a woman, but it wasn't on the 15th, is what she tried to say. And then she wouldn't say no more about it. Because, you know.
Yeah, because it wasn't on the 15th. It wasn't on the 15th.
Well, I sent you that document of the other day that we didn't know what was what. We thought it was all made up. We actually sent that to Don, try to get a response, see what he thought. He just ignored it, you know.
Right. That's when you say that.
Do I have that photo? I probably do. I don't know I could put my fingers on it right this moment, though. I've got all of the photos that Candice had on her Facebook, the old Facebook that Candice used to have. But I don't have it on this computer. I'd have to go and dig out my external hard drive. So I don't have it to hand, but I do know that photo exists of Summer because she had shoes on that were way too big for her. I remember it because she had like shoes on that were way too big. I remember it.
That's really like a tall like sign. You know, like these guys, they doing stuff to cover things up. Do you believe that?
Yeah, it could be. But I can give you a name to take and try to get a hold of that was at the Aquatic Center that supposedly witnessed Candace and them being there.
Okay, so before you give me this name, I'm going to pause this. That way. Okay, it's paused right now. Go ahead and give me the name.
And
okay.
I noticed a phone call had come through, and I called her back, and she acted like she didn't even know Candace and stuff. And she's like, I seen that little girl and her mother and grandmother at the Aquatic Center, which is a water park right before you get to, it's at the end of Reservoir Road before you get to Priceless at Wilcox. See, Priceless is on the other side of Wilcox. The water park and stuff's on this side of Wilcox at the end of Reservoir Road on the left.
Oh yeah, I'm very, very, very familiar with those, all those areas.
And then you got Hunter saying something about a water park. They supposed to went by a water park. But way Abby talked, though, that the woman, the conversation she heard of Candace was talking to that woman about the CPS and stuff. And then the woman that she was talking to was supposed to have been out of, I'm trying to think if she said Indianapolis or Minneapolis. And that's where they was going back to. But she allowed that Candace and Summer and Grandis left back together, but that don't mean they didn't go somewhere else. See, I turned this into law enforcement, so I don't know where it went from there. Like I told law enforcement, I said, it'd be easy confirmation. Only thing you got to do is go and pull the footage. There's surveillance of that day.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can verify this when you say that.
Yeah. But I mean, if it is got something to do with DCS or whatever, like Don and them wants to say, I try to keep an open mind. I don't try to take in this say, well, I know for a fact this is what happened, because I don't know for a fact this is what happened. There's many possibilities of things that could have happened. I mean, it could have been abduction. It could have been an accident. It could have been a drug debt. I mean, it could have been a variety of things. We got to look at it at the whole perspective, not just as, hey, this is, and it not be it,
Right. But you being around the law enforcement that's with this now, and I believe you have knowledge, more than anybody else would, because you said you're the one sitting in there for hours and hours and hours and interrogating, right?
I never was interrogated.
Well, I mean, you was sitting in there you said you was down there for hours and hours, and they was talking to you.
Oh, just take it with the Dennis Smith stuff. Yeah, I mean, we was going over maps and all that,
I believe that right there, alone tells a story. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're going after that.
See, I think Scott's hands got tied at first. They was desperate wanting to get Dawn and Candace at first, because they was 100% sure that Dawn traded. Okay, They tried to get me to take alcohol to Dawn and Candace, and I was like, well, I've never partied with them or nothing. Wouldn't that kind of be weird? They're like, well, we'll take care of that part. Wait 45 minutes, go down there and record. Well, when I went down there and record, Dawn naturally wasn't there. Candace was outside standing up again, Dawn's white truck at the back of it. And I asked her, I said, where's Dawn at?
You see, the thing with Fred is he gives like really detailed accounts And it sounds believable. You know, you can really picture it. But you don't know how much of it is truthful, or whether he's got the day wrong or what. But here he's saying that he was recording for law enforcement. So he's like, the excuse that they gave him was take this bottle of alcohol for them. Okay. Okay.
And she's like, he's not here. I said, okay. And about that time, I heard somebody coming up the driveway, and it was dawn. And when he pulled up and stuff, he got out, and Candace went straight in the house. She didn't say no more. She went straight in the house. Didn't even speak to Dawn. And then me and Dawn spoke there just a minute, and then that's when that life and stuff come over the recording device, and it made me think the law enforcement was trying to let Dawn know I was recording him or something. And then I got pissed off, and I tried to play it off like it was my phone. And then I just shut things down and started back off the driveway, and they're coming up the driveway trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, 2 days later after that, the two officers that I was working with is the one that took the alcohol up there. Okay, they wasn't allowed back up at the Wellses. But see, I think that's where it tied Scott's hands right then, that he couldn't do nothing. And I think that's why.
So Scott Stewart is now being tarred with this, you know, as being the savior. That when Scott Stewart comes in, you know, he's had his hands tied for the last 5 years. He's going to come in, you know, on a white horse, you know, as this white knight, and he's going to save the day, and he's going to find Summer. But we don't know whether Scott Stewart has had any involvement in Summer's case at all over the last 5 years, because he worked a lot in the drug section. So maybe Fred has come across him before, because Fred's a druggie. But we don't know whether Scott Stewart's been involved in Summer's case at all. We don't know that.
When he comes in office, it's going to be a different ballgame.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on that.
But see, I think that's what tied his hands right off the get-go. But they was determined to get Dawn then.
He might have a point there. He might well have a point there, that they, you know, they focused in on Dawn very early on, and, you know, didn't look at the possibilities. That could well be the case. Certainly for like the sheriff's department, because I don't really trust that they've done a great job. The TBI, different matter. I believe the TBI have worked hard, but I don't believe Hawkins County sheriffs have, really. I think Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has held Summer's case back from that angle. So it could well be true that Hawkins County were just focusing on Dom and, you know, trying to get the easy win, trying to get him to crack. Whereas the TBI and the FBI have been, you know, cast a much wider net. We'll see. We'll see.
And they just pushed a little too, they went the dirty way about it, you know. They should not have took alcohol or stuff. But I think that's what actually tied Scott's hands right off the rip, where he couldn't do nothing. But Scott's tied with a lot of different agencies and stuff.
That's true. Scott does have like affiliations with lots of different agencies. He's worked with lots of different agencies in the past, but we don't know whether he's had his hands tied. We don't know if Scott Stewart has been involved in Summer's case at all. We don't know that for a fact. Is Mr. Stewart the new sheriff? Soon, 1st of September, he takes office. So he's the sheriff-elect as of now.
That knows a lot more than Ronnie. Like you were saying, yeah, Ronnie, he is known to take payments, and his right-hand man, I'm so grateful to hear that Tony Allen didn't get, because that is Ronnie's right-hand man that was taking actually the payments and probably splitting it with the rest, you know. I'm assuming with Ronnie.
Chief. But
see, when the cemetery was first mentioned, I was like, well, they're going to have a hard time with the family agreeing with anything to do with that grave, not because of anything with Summer, because they got a grudge towards Hawkins County. See, Hawkins County Drug Task Force run over Danny Ray Morrison, and killed him.
Oh, really?
On Beech Creek. And they already got a feud kind of between that family and Hawkins County over that incident.
Wow.
That was before the James Light raid. They was actually coming out to raid James that night, and then, to be honest, they actually got behind my ex-wife, and she was coming to my house supposedly to pick up her daughter. Because
when was this? Because Fred's not had possession of his children for years. I believe that Fred's children were taken when they were living in Virginia. So who is this ex-wife that he speaks of? Because him and Laura weren't married. And how long ago are we talking here? Now, the James Light raid, that's a few years ago, but it's not that long ago. When there was a big drug bust in Hawkins County, and James Light, the drug kingpin, was taken, and there was a bunch of them who got done for drugs. I think he means Laura. But Laura and Fred had the kids taken from them. I'm sure it was when they were living in Virginia. So this timeline is pretty confusing. Unless he's talking about a different raid and he's mixing up. Because the James Light raid, I think, was 2022.
I had her on the weekend, and she was ditch line to ditch line, and they followed her on to where my place was and arrested her and took her in. And on the way back down Beech Creek, the vehicle she was actually in with them is one that hit Danny Ray.
And that was at this time and this location and all that happened. So Hawkins is kind of like, wait a minute, we got our hands tied here.
Oh, okay. So this is Department of Justice. James Light, 65, from Rogersville in Tennessee. This is from 2013. 2013. But there was a more recent one. So there's been a lot of raids. So it could be that Freddie's going back to this raid from 2013. So it could well be that he's got the name right. And that was before his kids were taken into care. I'm not discounting the story at all. I like my timelines. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Kojak, for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much. We've got Trish Duncliffe. We've got Nana B. We've got LJ Forever. We've got, let me just look, Kylie and Cursed with Curiosity. Welcome. If you've never been a member before, go and check out the members area. If you have, welcome back. Welcome. I'm sure there was a more recent one, though. I'm sure there was. There, I think that's the one I'm thinking of. 4 more arrested as part of. That's Knox County. There, that's the one I'm thinking of. Oh, look, that's my video. Drug Kingpin in Beech Creek, TN, and Sheriff Ronald Lawson. Okay. Hi, guys. All right. So my video. My video is the one that was from 2013, but for whatever reason the story was updated in 2020. But I can't get the original. The original story is no longer there. It might be that I need a VPN on it. So I don't know why I was doing a story from 2013. But anyway, going back to Fred.
Go ahead.
I just know what the agenda was at first of Summer's case from day one.
Right.
With Scott, you know.
So,
and see, a lot of people from that area that did not want Scott elected. They was for Tony Allen, most of them. And that was to continue doing their bullshit that they always done for all in years.
And that's with the good old boy system, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, Fred. I've got a live here in about 20 minutes, and you're more than welcome to watch it. I do appreciate you for answering that. And if I have some following questions, is this okay if we do it like this from here on out?
Yes, we can do it like this at any time. Anytime you have any questions, I mean, just like other creators and stuff. I just don't like going in a lot of chats and stuff because a lot of people don't like Z, or a lot of people just don't like me, or whatever the case is. And then they just start attacking for no reason just because they don't like you, whether you're speaking facts or bullshit. You know, and then a lot of people, you go in certain chats and then somebody see, you know, that they don't like you being over there in that chat or that chat, and then they start contacting all the mods and threatening them and this and this.
Yeah, I mean, if Fred Hill turns up in a chat, everybody will just want to talk to Fred and won't be listening to the live. They'll just all be wanting to talk to Fred. You know, I think if Fred wants to go in and chat, he needs to go in under a, you know, sock account, a sock puppet account. Yeah, ready for Lawson to kick rocks. Yeah. But as soon as Fred Hill enters the chat, it's like when Andy Bernard enters the chat, you know, and says hello. Everybody wants to talk to Andy. Everybody wants to talk to Fred. And then, you know, it's it derails it a bit for the creator. I think this is the one I was thinking of, not the James Light one. I found this. This is from 2018. Major bust. The TBI says a Kingsport man was sentenced to 24 years in federal prison after an investigation found he trafficked large amounts of meth and fentanyl from Chattanooga to Sullivan County for distribution. There's loads of these stories. They're always doing drug busts in that part of the world.
You know, so I
know how that works.
I try to be respectful and not even go in people's chat. I mean, just like when Andy was up there and stuff, I didn't want to go in chat because I wanted him to be not feel intimidated because I was in chat.
Yeah, and that's good. Just go in as a sock puppet. Just create an account. You know, if you want to chat, just go in and call yourself, I don't know, something completely different. Mickey Mouse or something.
I wanted him to be able to speak freely. But just like him saying that me and him have been into it like the day before or something, me and Andy's never been into it. We've never had a cross word. Just like Don, he let on like, oh, he come to my house, kick my door in. It didn't even happen like that. Don's never even raised his voice at me, and I've never raised my voice at Don.
All right, so Don told Hatfield McCoys that he went to Fred's on the night Summer disappeared and kicked Fred's door in. But it's the first time Don said that, and that's very recently. But Don has, you know, always said that on the night of the 15th of June, he went to Fred's. Because, you know, Fred has his ear to the ground. But he's never said that he kicked his door in. But, okay.
I mean,
so why would he just, so do you believe Don just puts things in people's mind to think that makes him think that he's doing something?
They say little shit. That make herself try to look big, I guess. I don't know. My opinion. That's just like when I got out of the halfway house, and actually I started staying in the bean station a little bit. Then I got permission to start staying on Reservoir Road, about 3 miles from Jody, at my other sister's, and at my sister's, my oldest sister. But while I was there mowing and stuff, Andy come by, and then I just stopped. He kept hollering online that I better stay in my lane and stuff. I guess because I mentioned him. Only thing I've mentioned really about Andy is him being on the road, and he's allowed to be on that road, But it just
he's allowed to be on that road because he lives there. Or at least he did.
What makes it odd is why I lie about it, and law enforcement knows you on that road. Even though people want to say, "Oh, he was at work." Yeah, he was at work most of that day, but there was a short time period he wasn't at work. For a fact.
Yeah, but the thing is, Andy worked in Kingsport. So you're looking at, 20-25 minutes drive back to Ben Hill and then back to his work. It's not just nipping out for a short time, is it? And then, I'm just nipping out to abduct a child. I'll be back in an hour. Do you know what I mean?
And then when you're working with somebody you're moving guns, drugs, everything else for, you think they're going to take and tell what's going on there? No. And then why did that van pull up with all them little girls in it at Andy's work, and offer them for sale?
No, whoa, wait a minute. You're saying that there was a van?
That's what Andy told us. It's on the live stream that there's a white van pulled up and somebody else.
According to Andy's time card on the 15th of June, 2021, he clocked out at lunchtime. He did not clock back in until Wednesday morning, the 16th. Was that definitely the 15th, though? Because Andy was home early on the 14th. Because that was all the Jackie Dobbs nonsense. So I don't know. That was definitely the 15th. So it'd be very interesting, though. If he wasn't at work on the afternoon of the 15th. I'd take everything back about what I said about Fred being wrong on the day. Life in the holler. What does Andy do for work? When Summer disappeared, he worked in Kingsport. I don't know if he worked at Eastman at that point. But it was Kingsport they worked.
Worked on the van, then they must have come over to the van and had some young girls in, offering them for sale. They were scared to death. And he brought up a name Stoney, and then that kind of, Stoney's got connections in Knoxville. He's a Mason, and I don't know how he is even a Mason.
What?
Oh, wow.
What? So people turned up at Andy's work selling girls, and this guy called Stoney, who's a Mason, so a Freemason, doesn't even know how he's a Mason. I mean, God, all these people, man. That's as bad as the meth monkeys. Fred said he saw Andy Bernard's dad or uncle driving down the holler when Fred was driving up. He said he hadn't seen him in 15 years. Oh, God. Andy didn't go back to work the next day, did he? Hadn't he said he took a few days off? Yes. Yes. That was my understanding. That was my understanding. I don't know whether it's true or, my understanding might be wrong. But I don't know that Andy clocked out on June 15th at lunchtime and then clocked back in on the 16th. I feel that it was the 14th because he was home early on the 14th because he had that altercation with Jackie Dobbs. And if Geordie Sue's been showing Andy's time cards or whatever, I'm not going to go through all the many hours of Geordie Sue's live streams to try and find where she's posted that. Or somewhere in the van. No. I mean, I have no idea what he's talking about here. Let me just go back a few seconds here.
Andy is him being on the road, and he's allowed to be on that road, you know. But it just what makes it odd is why I lie about it. And law enforcement knows you on that road, even though people want to say, "Oh, he was at work." Yeah, he was at work most of that day, but there was a short time period he wasn't at work, for a fact. And then when you're working with somebody you're moving guns, drugs, everything else for, you think they're going to take and tell what's going on there? No. And then why did that van pull up with all them little girls in it at Andy's work, you know, and offer them for sale?
So a van just turns up at Andy's work and says, "Do you want to buy some girls?" Yeah, I can understand like a van, you know, rocking up and saying, "Do you want to buy ice creams? Do you want to buy a burger?" You know, like a burger van or a fish and chip van. But not girls. She turns up at Andy's work with girls in it and says, "You want to buy some girls?" I'm finding it difficult to believe that would happen. Maybe I've lived a very sheltered life.
Oh, wait a minute. You're saying that there was a van?
That's what Andy told us. It's on the live stream that there's a white van pulled up, and somebody else worked on the van. Then they must for him to come over to the van and had some young girls in, offering them for sale. They were scared to death. And he brought up a name Stoney, and then that kind of Stoney's got connections in Knoxville. He's a Mason, and I don't know how he is even a Mason.
Oh, wow. So what happened to the girls?
I don't know. I mean, Andy's the one brought it up on the live stream one night.
Well, are we talking about, was they underage girls or were they just women?
Yeah, they was underage girls. The way he talked, young girls.
All right, I need to know what live stream that was on. I mean, I don't follow these people around the internet. So if anybody knows what live stream he's talking about that I can go and listen to, where Andy Bernard absolutely said out of his own mouth that he saw somebody outside his work called Stoney, who's a Mason, who doesn't know he's a Mason, but he's a Mason. And this Stoney was offering girls for sale. If Andy has said that somewhere, then let me know where. Let me know where. Good grief.
Girls, he said. But,
oh, wow.
But nobody's going to pull up at nobody.
Andy's on live. When, though? He sent me everyone. What have you sent me, Little Miss Madhead? Go to Ziggy's. Oh, God. Yeah, this case hurts my brain. My brain's hurting just reading this chat. I assume he means like a Freemason, not like a stonemason or, you know, Mason who works with stones. You heard all this on Ziggy. Yeah, but did you hear it directly from Andy? Or was it Fred talking about it? Because if Fred was talking about it, what we want is this story from Andy. Geordie first spoke on it, then Ziggy did a live on it. Oh, God. If it was Fred, then I'm not listening. I want to know from Andy's own mouth that this actually happened, that this guy pulls up at Andy's work and says, "Do you want to buy some girls?" And then my question is, did you call the cops? Did you call the cops? His name was Stoney. All right, Stone Mason. Okay, got it. Oh, dear. There was someone who called Andy's boss. I remember it wasn't Ryan. It was before It was very early on in the case. Someone actually called Andy's boss, or someone who worked with Andy, and they said he was at work, but they weren't really happy to talk. I don't remember who that phone call was by or anything, but I just remember it was done. Dear me. Remember hearing this story before, but can't remember where it came from, Andy. You've heard Fred tell this story before. Yeah, Fred telling this story, yeah. But he's saying this was Andy's experience, so I want to hear it from Andy. And I've never heard this coming out of Andy's mouth. But then again, I don't follow these people around the internet, so he could have said it, and I've just missed it.
It works out like that. And say, hey, you come here a minute. You want to purchase some of these girls in here and them scared to death? You know, like what Andy said, they look like they scared to death. Unless you done been in that game. There ain't nobody gonna roll up like that at a workplace, especially. I could see like maybe on the street or something or other.
Yeah, but if you were involved in buying girls, you're not going to tell people, are you? You're not going to have someone rock up at your workplace and then talk about it. So how does Fred know? Thank you, Blissful, for the $4. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, look, this is what Fred says. Nobody's going to pull up nobody's work site like that and say, hey, you. I'll have to play it.
Come here a minute. You want to purchase some of these girls in here and them?
Hey, you, come here. Do you want to purchase girls? So, who would do that?
Scared to death, you know, like what Andy said, they look like they scared to death. Unless you done been in that game.
Well, so if Andy was in that game, surely he wouldn't be talking about it. And he wouldn't be having people rock up at his workplace. Now, he could be telling the story as something that was absolutely horrifying. Yeah, he could be saying, guess what happened? You know, this guy rocked up with these girls in the back and asked me, did I want to buy them? And I called the cops and I sent the cops after him. Yeah, you could be telling that story. You know, as somebody who's horrified. But this doesn't sound like that kind of story to me. This is why I want to hear it all from Andy. Rocking up is so British. It is. We rock up everywhere. We do. We give it legs and we rock up. Which means we walk there. That's all it means.
There ain't nobody gonna roll up like that at a workplace, especially. I could see like maybe on the street or something or other. But you roll up at a certain place where they're...
Look, I don't think there's that many places where you could walk along and get stopped by someone in a van and them ask you, do you want to buy some kids? Do you want to buy some girls? I think you'd have to be in a very seedy part of the world for that to happen. I don't think that would happen just like, you know, at a random street. I'm so lost. I know. It's Fred's on one. It's I want to hear this from Andy. I feel Andy's more credible than Fred. It was Benny. Who was Benny? I mean, I know who Benny is, but what Benny said it. Oh God, good God. Oh, good God.
Work, I mean, like at Hayworth, where they're changing their tires and stuff, and say, hey.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Blissful, for gifting 10 memberships. Let's have a look. We've got Amy's, Brownies, we've got Terry Ann, we've got Ezzy Skilo. Oh, dear me. We got Amber, Willow, Horsing Around the Clock, Kelly, Super Nothing, Mama, Daisy. I think that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Blissful, you are so kind. If you've never been, did I just hit the mic then? Did you get a horrible noise in your ears? If you've been listening in earbuds or something, I just hit the mic. You got a horrible noise. But thank you so much, Blissful. If you've never been a member before, please do go and check out the members area. If you have been a member before, welcome back. We're nearly at the end. For all of those that are lost, here is the link to the actual live stream. You can go and listen to it again on Ziggy's channel, and without my commentary, and it might make a little bit more sense. But we're nearly at the end now. We're nearly done.
When you know that everything's going to be on camera and all that, I mean, it don't make sense.
No, it don't.
Do you something about Stony, you know, and then
was this after Summer went missing?
I mean, the live stream was, yes, that he went up and told that, but I don't know what day that day was actually supposed to be an active work.
Okay.
But see,
well,
the third day after, let's see, the 15th, 16th, 17th, I didn't record the 18th, but I was.
So the 15th, Summer was only reported missing around 6:30 p.m. The cops started to turn up around 7 p.m. Are they going to make contact with Fred that very day with their recording device and say, hey, Fred, do you mind wearing this wire and then going down to 110 and seeing if you can pick up any, strange conversations? I feel that they wouldn't do that very night. That very night, they would just be assuming that Summer had just wandered off and all they have to do is find her. So I find it difficult to believe this story of, the recording device. I find it difficult to believe that the cops would go straight to that. Do you know what I mean? I could understand them maybe, if Fred was already a confidential informant, if they've already worked with him in the past, they might go to him. But that very night that someone was reported missing, would they do that very night? Because, a 5-year-old wandering off, the vast majority of 5-year-olds who wanders off, they're found within a couple of hours. They've got lost or they've, fallen down somewhere and they're injured, but they find them. So I just find it difficult that they trust Fred to be the CI, unless he had previous CI experience with them. Mrs. Kojak, member for 7 months. Please subscribe. Please do. Hit the like button and hype the video if you can. Please do. Please do. Right, we're nearly at the end. Last 2 minutes.
Was down there and at the end of Indian Joe's driveway, and they act like they was into it kind of when I got there. And Indy put that black and white pit bull in the back of the Kia, and he pulled out. And that was the last time I seen Andy for 21 days. And I run into him at Zoomers again. I was getting gas, and he's like, yeah, I've been out of town working at, I'm wanting to think he said Ripley's, or running a train ride. And he mentioned he said.
Now, Andy did say that he went away working at some point. He did say that. I can't remember where he said it, but he did say that. I don't know whether he said the time frame, but he did say that. If Fred was recording on the 15th, where is the recording of Don going to Fred's on the 15th? Well, where is that? Exactly where is that?
Yeah, I ain't seen him while he says, yeah, it's been about 21 days at that point, So, and then that's when Jody got mad and put that time card up and tried to say, oh, he was still at work at Hayward all that week, you see. And then on Tuesday, which was supposed to be the 15th, it showed him checking in and out in the AM. Never checking out, And then the rest of the days before it, he checked in the AM and out in the PM.
All right, I need to see these time cards. I do need to see these time cards.
And like Wednesday, Thursday, and on, morning and evening, he checked out. But that Pacific day, it showed him just checking in the AM and out in the AM. Never checking back.
And you're talking about the day Summer went missing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Where does Grandis fit in any of this? And give me a few minutes, but go ahead and talk about Grandis and where she fits in, and I'll be right back with you, okay?
Well, I don't really know much about Grandis. I don't think she really even knew what was even happening, to be honest. I don't think they let her know nothing. Yeah, I don't know nothing about Grandis really, or I've not really heard nobody around that area even really mention Grandis.
Hello.
Grandis really, but I feel like she probably may not even know nothing. You know, I believe that it was just.
Well, you know, she left. She left. I believe she has to know something from being in the family because she left right out of there. She tore out of there, didn't she?
Left. There's a big difference in just leaving and being forced out.
Right. She didn't leave straight after Summer disappeared. It was the month after. So she was already gone when Chris McDonough did the interview with Candace at Ben Hill. And that was the latter end of July. So the boys had already gone and Grandma had already gone. But it wasn't straight away. It was the month after, not immediately after. Shall I have a shot on my channel that has a shot of the time card in it? You're more than welcome to use it. JSB specifically said she's not giving you too shy. It's not the 15th she showed. Okay, I'll have to go and check it out. Now, Grandma, she didn't live there. She would like visit people. So she would turn up, stay there for a few months and then leave again. So it wasn't like she just got out of there because Summer went missing. This was what she did. She would go to Wisconsin and then she'd travel to Tennessee and she would go around like visiting people.
Oh, so you think that maybe she was forced out?
She was forced out by law enforcement. She had to leave her. They was taking the boys then because she's not allowed around children.
Wait. No, that's not what happened. That isn't what happened.
Wait. You're saying Grandis is not allowed around children?
Grandis is not around children. Supposed to be around children. It's in some sealed documents on CPS.
Well, how would Fred know if it was sealed? How would Fred know that? No. There was... I remember a long time ago, there was conversation that Grandma Candy wasn't allowed around children. And where it came from was the husband of Rose Bly. So Candace's sister, Grandma Candy's daughter, who went missing in what, 2009, was it? 2008, 2009, or whatever it was, in Wisconsin. And Rose Bly had two daughters who were only babies when she went missing. They're now kind of grown. And the husband of Rose Bly brought up those girls himself and doesn't allow Grandma Candy to see them. Now, it's not because CPS ordered that she wasn't allowed to see them or that law enforcement said it. It was him. He decided that Grandma Candy wasn't allowed to see Rosie's girls because she's inconsistent, because she's there one minute, gone the next. she's not a consistent, she wouldn't be a consistent figure in their lives. He didn't like that. And therefore, he said, if you're not going to be a consistent figure in their lives, you're not seeing them at all. So it wasn't something that was imposed on Rosie's girls or Grandma Candy that they weren't allowed to see each other. It was Rose Blythe's husband or ex-husband, Chris, I think his name is. Now, Chris, this guy, Chris, I think it's Chris, he's never given an interview. I got all this from a chat. I think it was maybe Voices Behind the Wall. And Chris was in chat and Cher was trying to get him to go on the panel and he wouldn't. And he was talking in the chat and she was like kind of talking to him. So she's there talking, he's typing, she's reading out his text message, she's reading out the text, she's responding. So it's this conversation that's going on, really stilty because it's all in the chat. But that was the upshot of this conversation, that it wasn't, as people have been saying, that Grandma wasn't allowed around any children. It was that he had told her that he didn't want her seeing his girls, her grandchildren, because she's an inconsistent figure. So he didn't want that. He didn't want that like unsettling, you know, Grandma's there one minute and she's gone the next kind of thing going on with his girls. And he's got sole custody, so he can make that decision. But it's not true that Grandma Candy is not allowed around any children, or at least nobody. If that's true, how would Fred know that was true if documents were sealed? He would have no way of knowing that what CPS documents said, because they're sealed. Chris also spoke with Tiffany Marie. Yeah, he's spoken a few times to various people, but he won't go on a panel. He'll type in a chat, but he won't go on a panel. But it's a long time ago. Long time ago.
Wow. I never knew that.
Around children, period, from what I'm understanding. And law enforcement made her leave. She didn't just volunteer up and just, oh, someone went missing, I've got to get out of here. It wasn't like that. It was, I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm not taking that for granted at all. Don't think that. But I know what law enforcement.
So basically, Fred's heard some rumors and he's put two and two together and he's got 500. You know, people have talked about sealed CPS documents. People have talked about that Grandma Candy isn't allowed around any children, but it's never been proven because documents are sealed. You can't see what, if anything, has been said by CPS about Grandma Candy against any children. So that's BS. And where that rumor came from is Chris, Rose Blythe's husband, that he didn't want his girls seeing Grandma Candy, but it wasn't something that CPS had imposed or law enforcement had imposed. It was Chris himself, because she's an inconsistent figure, and he didn't like that idea of having this inconsistent grandma. So that's where it came from, and it's not true that Grandma left because she was forced out by law enforcement. That is absolutely not true. We know that's not true because we know that CPS took the boys because of Don and Candice, not because of Grandma. They didn't say we're going to take the boys if Grandma doesn't leave. Because listen, Grandma left and the boys aren't there. The boys are not there because of Don and Candice, not because of Grandma. So the two things, the boys leaving and Grandma Candice leaving, are completely two different things. Because if what Fred's saying is true, well, Grandma Candy left, so why were the boys taken? If law enforcement said, listen, if she doesn't leave, we're going to take the boys. Firstly, law enforcement can't take the boys, right? And it wasn't law enforcement that was involved in any of this. It was CPS. It was a CPS matter. Don and Candice failed drug screening and God knows what else. So the boys were taken in July. It was around the same time that Grandma left, but one did not cause the other. They were two separate events. Grandma left because that's what Grandma does, not because of anything law enforcement said. So that's complete BS. And apparently, if what Don's saying is true, CPS were on the property the day before Summer went missing. So why didn't CPS on the 14th of June close the case if Grandma Candy was there and she's not allowed to be around children? That's BS. Fred has seen a load of rumours and he's put two and two together and got 5 million. Yeah, Grandma is a traveller. She is. She likes, you know, she goes to see her sister in one location like certain times a year. And I think she left because her sister's husband was having an operation or something, and that's why she went there. I think. I can't remember exactly, but Grandma doesn't stay in one place for very long. She comes and goes. That's right. She left because she had to take care of an elderly person that was sick. I think it was her sister's husband who was having an operation, so she went to help her sister. Something along those lines. It was nothing to do with the boys. And if it was to do with the boys, well, Grandma left, so why were the boys still taken? Doesn't make sense. Anything Fred said here is completely, just ignore it. It's BS.
No.
Okay.
They made her, you got to go or we got to take these boys because you're not allowed around them. And if you're going to stay here, we got to take them from your presence.
Well, okay. How come they took the boys anyway then? Did you get my message email? I do not know. I haven't checked my emails in like forever. She's like a hollow snowbird. She is. She is. She probably goes to Tennessee like in the springtime when it's warm. And then maybe she goes somewhere where it's a little cooler when it gets hot. And then maybe she avoids the snow. I don't know. I don't know.
So is Grandis on some sort of, well, why is she on a registry or something then?
I don't know.
Or is she?
I'm really not really looked into her, but I know her brother is.
Oh, really?
Her brother's big. And see, he just got out a couple of days before someone went missing.
No, he did not. Oh, good God, Fred. No, he didn't. He's talking about Warren Hara. He was locked up when Summer went missing. He was locked up. I can prove that. Read the Carly Gregg case. I'll check my emails. I don't know when the last time was that I checked my emails. I don't check them very often. So I'll check it after. I probably did, but I've got all sorts of stuff in here in this email account. Most of it, honestly, is junk mail. I have to like sift through. It's why I don't check very often, but I will check. So about Carly Gregg. Okay. If you've put Carly Gregg in the title, I can find it. Oh dear. Warren Hara. He wasn't let out 2 days before Summer went missing. That is just not true.
Really?
And then see, Don's sister Sonia was supposed to have been visiting around a few days before someone went missing. So
wow.
I'm understanding, you know.
Yeah. Well, Fred, I'm going to get ready.
Now, Fred's sister Sonia was supposed to be visiting. That has been said. I don't know whether that was ever confirmed. But anyway, Warren Hara.
For this live, man, I do appreciate you for, being cooperative.
any kind of questions or whatever, I mean, you can feel free to call me or whatever, you know.
Okay, I will. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Are you going to watch?
Yeah, I'll probably try to watch.
All right, here we are. Here's Warren Hara. There he is, Grandma's brother. This is Candace's uncle. He was locked up when Summer disappeared. Clark County sex offender to be released. So this is August 27th, 2021. So he was locked up. 63-year-old Warren S. Hara served his sentence for sexual assault. He's being released. According to a release from the Clark County Sheriff's Office, Hara will live at bleep, 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 Wisconsin, starting September 10th, 2021. So he was locked up, and he'd been locked up for a long time. Hara will be supervised by agents specializing in intensive supervision. He has to comply with all requirements and rules from conditional release, blah, blah, blah. And he was locked up for a long time. So on June 15th, 2021, he was locked up. So there's that. I remember making a video about him when he was released. I do remember that. All right, we're done. We are done. We are all done. Oh, we've done it within 3 hours as well. I thought it would take me forever to get through this. But we've done it in 3 hours. But I am going to go now. I am going to go now. When Fred said that's my understanding, he's repeating concept. Yeah. He doesn't know it. He hears things and then he puts them all together and he makes up a story. And I'm not saying he's out and out lying, but what I am saying is his speculation is taken as fact because he's Fred. And, oh, well, he must know because he lived on Ben Hill Road. And people repeat it. And no, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. CW has been a member for 33 months. All right, guys, I am out of here. Thanks, as always, to the mods. Thanks to everybody who donated or gifted memberships or did all the things. And I think I got everybody. I did. I think I got everybody. So I'm not going to repeat it all. But welcome new members. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Let's see what comes up next. Fred said more. Fred's going to be saying more, I'm sure. All right, guys. See you soon.